mbali muikan wodongo ndolbe dahatale Mengbe Kering alingantilingulula nyununa damunela kambe dahan Mengbe Kering gabonyine nyama mbaliko ninyine belori galibana doya nyolbe dahata mbetilina lale mbali je kan mbali muikan wodongo ndolbe dahatale Mengbe Kering alingantilingulula nyununa damunela kambe dahandi yo mbali koma jalibana doya nyawonya mbali.
Remit Continental, fastest money transfer in minutes.
Just Remit Continental. Kubuga yoni halis fat. Just Remit Continental. Depa party taxi on. Akakausi faxa sol. Yoni halis from UK down to Gambia. Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana. Every coast, Mali, wherever, and every part of the African continent. Remit Continental, cheap, fast and confidential, and reliable, fastest money transfer. No fake it, don't miss a sauna. I reach Remit Continental, cheap, fast and confidential, and reliable, fastest money transfer. Download all app if access all.
Remit Continental, fastest, reliable, and secure money transfer.
Itanata holiday la Gambia ban kabona dunia la karadola a ni atara wolonde jakalo bantale taradula la fannala bayrin dinkirabi je ka fo mi korimba holiday in mi yalon ko abale burfutu santo sule minute lulu tamo doro yefuta Saraton Hotel nin karadola ni tamata minute lulu yefuta badala andu na bungol jaman laban bungol londe dami yalon ko ni be air condition ne andu ni be o bungol kono ibe free internet la sotola wate diate ni te paretale yela tiketo sam yela bago park fokaba e commande nyin nombal la pour taradula kendo
+220 381 8947 wala +220 747 1576 wala +43 664 973 5030 wala yin email masterjame@gmail.com
wala korimba holiday in yinolu natale kalu dahande alla holiday la sako alla taradula Khalifa General Duwa Jabi Moro Alhaji Mamadou Lamin Jabi anala nomalanko minkata Alhaji Madiba Jabiti alkalo nyakasi baji anim pese alfalu mumebe wala ko ibe jama misilmol be kere komandela ila sawo san ziare to e kaminke bese sate kono e ko nyin ziare ka kemina ko kam wolomo Alhaji Kanjura Jabiti andonga sita labe kala nyinno be bakaro atilim wala ko ibe bunya futande la banko president wala Adama Barrow anala kabineto bume be Khalifa General miyalon ko abe kanjalo Alhaji Salbina Jabi Khalifa General miyalon ko abe jara sutukon Alhaji Lansana Jabi Khalifa General Mengbe Kering Masembe Alhaji Karamba Jabi Khalifa General miyalon ko abe nyandanki Alhaji Sankumba Jabi Khalifa General Alhaji Sidia Jabi Mengbe Tarsilima anen sirifol mume be ahla beritul rasul min yalon ko be Gambia anen Senegal president o mi yalon ko be Supreme Islamic Council anen president o mi yalon ko be Rawdatul Majalis utumbadi ngolo min yalon ko ibe nyin ziare kala wolo Duwa Jabi Moroti anen ala bese alfalu walla ko be jama mol be ko man le nyin ziare bato asitale nyin tubab karo November atili mwolo walla be ngaben
Nko ni bagasi kendo a original ro wulela kolia koti sa foiko ila kolia bantale katum Gam Depo Enterprise Limited minifalale brikama dasilame SSP nyatile notro isafo korame jabi kunda wulle ala kolia ban fere katum ye jora kendol natalile minuka mondoko floss toilet o complete set o mume sifa solar panel bijele 320 watts and 270 watts kutama pull solar battery fanan bijele American pentol fanan bijelde minuka mondoko oil paints water paints plastic paints marine paints minu be botana America le domandi malni wara mal bele bijele floss dol bijele sifa matresol size wo size torom wol fanan bijele na bundado fanan filale busumbala metar keme doron ni boda UDP la biroto ni lafta commencer na so la nyin koto ici le propriétaire commandino le Anm Ousainou ni nombal tole 7666965 wala jere sane mimu sales manager Brikama branch 2328071 wala alsa Ibrahima Sane fanan commandino le mimu sales manager Busumbala branch 3542829 bagaso kendema a originalo dula killing Gam Depo Enterprise Limited.
Ngo ibe Angleterre Lebanon Scotland wala Wales ni atare be nyin dulal to ando fengol be bulu lafta minul kila na Gambia ngale ko jakalo banda kato ko munum pour 5 logistic limited wala nata kalo da hande e ko sea freight and air freight wodom nyinte ko nim femba baade bulu lafta min kila na Gambia e ka sambale na nin kulun wala baji ko banim fendi won le baade bulu albe korontori ye futay ka fami ye joni o fanay ka bulali ye kununtila kono ya sambale nan 37 hapoto ka kine mbakono kulun wala wala o office be latre kunda sabijile banim fendi wala be bulu lafta min kila Angleterre wala lafta ya kiyena kabona Angleterre evitera office to me yalon ko abe sukuta Kawos Johnson wala Dahaba Johnson e commande telephone to 7420694 wala 7308905 5216583 7402533 Hansandre la call center wala mu 020-011-1440 wala hansande alsudano la website to la yalla order kaji www.group5logistics.com badi ngol group 5 logistics tonya nyinelo mu nyonta ngolati nanata sea freight and air freight.
Buton Facebook nkol bukam moy non mbala hako dani la wala bari sa la famille na dro wala mnyete ko ka tariyande bari programme o nyimbe jam fata bakale so mbe min kala dro wala mo ka dati man satalla tola bismillahir rahmanir rahim katu ka tolo mu kum faya kuno te me yalo ko ayenda a telefona e da fe mo beda kabirenga e daro ka mbe mbala tombo memo mamati ka kalifo te nyimbanko kan anata muron ka kila jo nyema tombo Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ka kaya kanun teti
wo kanunte yaadu ye mune itandi wolom nyende ko ntolu fana nata ke ala kanunte ntolu hadama dingolu bari Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ata mo hadama dingolati so wala ya sabu watol bera ntolu hadama dingolu nyantale ka o mansoñin ka tentu ka jaye anen ka warande tentro anen jayro anen warandiro me yalon ko amandandula soto tumala men na bi fanande nyanya wala ngadatine ala toba seno wala andum ba danira fonsa kumfano nin alhamdulillah rabbil alamin budon badi ngol men yalon ko ben noma Facebook holto wala ya jele nga molo hakadani bayrin sibitulo ngo mol dalta minna wala mo social letati buton bi sibitola social letter nga ate jenkande karala foro wala na social letter kan telu be mbala hako danila bi na social letter jenkondora nga jenkendi dalila jumale kama wala mnyenti ko bari nina tajibe jamu commercial radio te ando radio aka abuka balu ni jiken samana gaswelo ni cash power kabalu ni wala ya sabu butum ning programme olu nata meni alon ko keta sande programme ulti wo mbuga fere o fere keno wala mbala hako dan butum bi mi alon ko wala bembulo wala mo special documentary te mi alon ko ya keminna ko ka wala mo lawyer Ousainou Darboe mi alon ko atela mo nyaton ko te United Democratic Party nyin documentary ya tananne misal fe tarika sato don kabri lawyer Ousainou Darboe awuluta mun tole adinde ya ay mun kulleke adunta mun kulle kono kabri nga dinding ala karango dati mun tole anata laban karango la mun tole ay mun doku sifalle ke kabri nga ala karango bang ala doku kono ay mun kusi falle keje ay nyato ta sifa nyaadi lesoto je mune keta ay bata kodoti fo kabere wato me yalon ko futata 1991 sankono 1991 sankono mweban wato me yalon ko futata 1981 sankono wo fanan baby jele bayden documentary yo be kovale 1981 kabiri Sirif Mustafa Diba anala NCP kodu kabiri mutakatande ko itolle nin kuko tafauta pour kaje ko ka jawara mansakunda ka jawara mansakunda boyinde coup d'état wokono akoliata dum bake NCP ko la fita kata loya bondina Angleterre Ousainou Darboe nata foy ko amanjar wala kata loya bondina Angleterre alina nyin kodi ba kata wojo bar say leftale ntebe lola aliyele andun tal charge la fenna Ousainou Darboe buto alba be moylale anin Antoine Gay ilota nyaadi le kaje ko Sirifu Diba la kitio kalo Sirifu Diba e fo Sirifu Diba manta kasoto kalo NCP ko le fo manta kasoto ani mo jama bije mi yalon ko Ousainou Darboe lote e 1981 sankono pour que kanandi katu ko ala miroto ye kamole leikan alote aya sabu wor manta no prison abe wodo ko la continental wodo ko la man sakunda kono jang jawara man sakunda adi atara lotale against the government wokitiol to but wonya anata to soto wokitiol to kabiringa nyatotal soto ji Ousainou nata continue yake mansakunda la lawyer jamalti by in documentary talba mo la social security housing and finance kata gamtel atelum wol bela loyalty kata GPTC Gambia Public Transport Corporation atele kata wol bela loyalty atata wole nyama fo afutata 1994 wato mena yaya jamme coup d'etat ke ay Ousainou Darboe taramuntole bi albe be mo la nyen documentary to Ousainou Darboe inata futa kan tumana min na parti sabalata nyoka mi yalon ko wolom GPP te Hassan Musa Kamara party NCP Sirif Mustafa Diba party anim PPP tumana min na kabirin sojarol nata yo parti be burukale ko ite Darboe la politiko to jang yo inata je ko fo parti soto mi yalon ka belo la yaya jamme fe 1994 wato mi yalon ko sojarol e coup d'état ke o wato le nyempati sabol nata la nyoka PPP GPP ani NCP ye parti bondi to fankono kafuba killing wala kata United Democratic Party kabiri ye United Democratic Party lo wato minna ye minke wala mnyende ko sai sulata nyaton ko la bari be jumale kala nyaton ko ye kesamol ke ye alkuro ke wo kesendiro ne alkuro wala nata jumale muta wala mu loya Ousainou Darboe kabiri loya Ousainou Darboe ya nyinkumo faye folo nyinde foko biri nyinkumo faye pure aike nyaton koti nyaton ko mi alon ka be kala opposition la nyaton ko the United Democratic Party ay nyine foy ko atemu loyalty amam political long walla ye badala ate political kenola bar wokono kilal tartanala mol tartanala albabe mo la nyin documenti kono for another song ka ke United Democratic Party la nyaton ko kabiri United Democratic Party kata walla nyaton ko 1994 documentary obe kovale amonta tarikul bulata obe normale for jannin 2016 sankono wato mina ya muta bari Ousainou according to alamodo ana terolu ni mormini alon ko Ousainou long ya tandile ko Ousainou manganin soto anda manke moti mi alon ko afatiata coming akanka sika santo ala dimba alfana ya tandile ko nenema lunje lungo mi yalon ko Ousainou Darboe kamfata le fo a kamo cikandi santo ka wuri kan wo nyongo mansia bake family no kono wo kono inata itandile ko Ousainou Darboe amu mole te me yalon ko fa kende balem andon ala musor fana yatandi ko nin keli bo bebo ko Ousainou Darboe yatandi ko musor be dahala bake kadu ko tolu imam bataku soto Ousainou Darboe la Ousainou Darboe ka fengo be landi luwale kan hani UDP abe dore wato mena ne UDP kolu muta dolu ka hamele pour ye findi sulolu ka ye kulu ke manyana minkela bari wato Ousainou Darboe ka min foye wala munyente ko alinga bula luwa noma hani atara wo luwa fa mantel favor e kabula wo luwa le noma kabiri fotata 2016 sankono e solo sanden arrest inata bute fo ya fa inata muso dolu bute mini alon ko boko Fatmata Jawara nyolu kata no ko njaay nyolu fo ketuta o wato Ousainou Darboe nata fo ko nyin kode atambita doron kabula luwa noma bayri luwa nyi mantara tamakan wala sayen balobi je sayabi je nde Ousainou Darboe be fintilale ngata solo sandem fure nyinen ka bayrin kabiri ya fa woni bitema e man kuma fonye ala koto Ousainou Darboe nata press conference o kumandi wala nyama kabira press conference o kumandi anim mori base ala party executive for sita e katata ayatandi ko be fintilale bi kataka solo sandem afure wala kendo la fitale mansakunda e wodinna idamale press conference o kadaje Ousainou Darboe nata nyem foko bari parti la structure be laare nyame e ka nyaton ka no manan ko le soto wala nyaton ka ite se finti nate Ousainou Darboe altol lebe talla ka fo nyato ni yaya jamela modbe momo bunna kidola kesobe kala ku follow min kese follow min bina o setol follow fa jannin abe ko man ko fala bari fengo femme yanon ko wala lata parti wala lata nyaton ko kan amunda nyaton ka ila deputy min lata te kan Ousainou Darboe ya foko wol BCC suwo kono nyin kamale tolu itata le menyin la ko be murun nanan bari ni e tolu fa wate isaje wol say United Democratic Party la kolu tamandi no bari ate fa wala fisiata Gambia e tumbo budo mbadi ngono nyin mo documentary to kol bela wala saim be minkela doro wala nyinte ko nalse dum wo documentary kono a jamfata da wonde bari alse ke lamo lalta alse ke hakil to lalti ngalo mbajo ma abe koleale bule wato do bari dukari nil lado to andum fana mbasin kolim fana nem fode be bala fode kumande aina aka fasaro ke karadola ani mbanyalen fana ni Muhammad be bala jedoro afo Muhammad aina nan ayema koy kanna sorola bari angale kan be siara jel wala saimbe min kala dro nale dum wo documentary jingo
48 years ago, a young fresh law graduate, Anm Ousainou Darboe, entered the legal arena for what will become one of the Gambia's most successful legal practices. This film takes you on an intimate tour of his humble beginning.
Now see, this was the bed the Bokemo used to lie on.
His simplicity and kindness.
A lot of the time, we do these cases for free. You know why? Because that would be very shy to ask anybody to pay anything.
Comme da nga ñu won ko ne ko amulo comme like ñu la niwal doole waye amulo yu ñu lak la dé gëna sawar dina la kiisal dina la fayal filing fees.
Ousainou mu loyalty a darjeta la loyayato anyanta kodo men soto la masoto hinante akam.
Will go on an in-depth exploration of his contribution to the Gambian jurisprudence.
I used to admire him because he was somebody who was going to court and achieving results, outcomes that are positive.
When he produced the document, wanted to tell them, I rose up to take objection. My objection was upheld. And I said, Alhamdulillah. That deflated constituency.
In every sphere and aspect of the law, Darboe's contribution is there.
All of a sudden, Ousainou rose to say, and the lawyer said, no, I'm speaking. Normally, when one is up, the other one should sit down. Then when he rose, he said, no, I'm speaking. He said, no, listen to me first. Then he gave that lawyer 5 cases, names of 5 cases, and the rulings, the ratio they said that for the lawyer to use against him. Not many lawyers can do that.
We'll look at his selflessness and tenacity in the face of adversity.
He has nerves of steel. Nothing can scare him.
When Ousainou was going into politics, he prepared us. He told us that he was expecting death, he was expecting life imprisonment, he could even be maimed.
I named Papa di Kumandi. Nasolo dimbayal karafalma. That's what he said to us. Nasolo la dimbayal karafalma.
When I called Nafi direct and then Nafi answered, she was like, Jojo, they put in Baba in the truck, they put in, and she could see it. She was standing there on the phone, and the next minute the phone just went off. It was off.
When the judge made the judgment that the family can go visit, we tried to go visit. I'm telling lawyer Nene Cham that 4 mile to Bundato, and they said, well, even though the court gave the order, they had no order from the top, so they wouldn't let any family. So when Neo Kuyanum Bagele, because I know my dad was old at that time, I'm not sure if I was ever gonna see him again. So that was very emotional for me.
And we'll explore why he enjoys a tidal wave of support as a politician. On August 8, 1948, the village of Darboe in Nyani, in what is today known as the Central River region, produced one of its most industrious sons, a gift to the Gambia.
There are 3 houses. The main house is the one in the middle, and we call it Bumba. That is the big house. That is the house where the founder of this village, Darboe Kemo, lived. This is where he brought up his family. The other building, the 3rd house, is what used to be called Rafanding Kunda. That is the village, that house where Darboe Kemo's own son, or in fact, the son of his brother.
The founder of this picturesque village and Ousainou's great-grandfather Darboe Kemo was a prominent Islamic scholar. He drummed the idea of the search for knowledge into the ears of every child born here during his time. To nurture that legacy, he named the village Karang Bantang, or the citadel of knowledge. And from a tender age, Ousainou embraced that value and the culture of his people.
This is where we would light, get shrubs, small pieces of wood from the forest or from the bush, burn it here. And when we put it at the blaze, from a distance, you can see smoke and you can see fire. That's where we surrounded this, and this is the Karanta. Here's the Karanta bar. Several of us would sit around this Karanta, recite the Quran, depending on what level you are. Some would have the actual paper, the actual text book of the Quran. Others would have what we call the wala, and they would sit here. We would all sit here and read Quran. And indeed, at a very early age, I really mastered the Quran. I think I finished the Quran at least 3 times before I was 10 years old.
Hussein, utumo mulika karanje wol siya bata tafi. Utumo ntewe do yari wala le bembu. Ndindim man katara karana wala. Bari wotembo na hakilo mamba atela kulu. Utumo yaate dindi tuwab karantu akata bansang akakarantu ni wikino sita asinaja. Ni lifo na sita asinaja. Ate alkurano bang utumo abedo arimbat alfal kafo ko mo man soto jang do bo jang pirin kata do bo kemo wala kana bulan ntolula mais si alkurano bang atara ko tela siyo do tembo e kama soto do bo kemo la fenko kona a folota yaji atele alfali utu ko fonyala nin anata ko karanta dindin be atel kabula be no maka be karandi kilin fay mo beba melbe alqur'ano karanka alqur'ano be melbul asibula ilo alqur'ano ta abul fanan karandi la ta ko ni siyata ta bibati.
See, this was the bed the Bokemo used to lie on. It was made of mud.
Ousainou has very fond memories growing up in the dusty streets and bushy fields of Darboe among his extended family and friends, a childhood centered around community life, trust and love, shared happiness and contentedness.
I really remember going to the bush to fetch firewood. I also remember taking the goats and the sheep for grazing.
India bimbete mawutumudo nata ya mbaya nintaya nata mbaya nata ya beya ola manga mo sangar lindi amanga mo nganyangedi amanga mo di shafa ko amang horma so malu wulti amang kudo fanando
Ousainou kabirim balolli ay kulo folo ana mina kewa barande o ma laji ko polot fulanjang birai moya kamali ayalo ko nyante mulekela saate wala fa ko doro ba ko la fa ko abole noma manin kunta yalo manin tapale yalo manin fani ya folo manin sunyar lo
sheni nadni yakon bindindi mo kendolam mo sebolam bindindi man chakano long ndu shenu amen kanu afa bindi no ni ya wato kono amen kanu afaye aw kan nte.
At the latter part of his childhood, Ousainou left Darboe for the town of Bansang across the river for his primary education. There, he had another wonderful experience filled with warmth and happiness among his family and friends who recall the Ousainou they knew back in the days.
Akuluta jan nane ne manku jote ba nyama drona buka ani mo buka ni ye fem pa ya fo le ha mo kulurin ba
dafa oyofol waaye ni nga xamoon ne nag borom xam-xam la du mer te li muy wax daf koy xam.
From Bansang, Ousainou moved to Banjul to attend St. Augustine's High School. There, he found a new home in the house of veteran politician P.S. Njai in 19 Boku Street. Njai was known for hosting students from every region of the country, especially rural Gambia, and paying their tuition fees at the time.
Politics then was really creeping into the provinces, because the franchise had been extended to the provinces. P.S. Njai had a lot of support from Salum. So a lot of people were coming from Salum and some from Badibus. So it was a really crowded place, really crowded. Sometimes, when you come from school, you find that, some visitors have come from some part of the country and they have to eat, so they are giving you a lunch.
Ousainou fanna stew Njai Kunda Piesia molon dal mo yalon ko dal ha ni mo me hakilo to de si boya kasla Ousainou man problem so ane ni mo man fengen ga Ousainou kile ndana la brother mo dabo tele kuliyata ba may ko kon tele siata de ya moy ga Ousainou kile la place jam akadungo le fo ay futation nim mo daw ko arata after ya ko karete le internet odom bebe daga school asita abuka fani abuka fono no abuka fani abina ba fa la besila do fana ba la ngo du kare tanye gulo saba etanye kare ya fa te le internet he'll go abuka sifa abuka ni complete taje la nyala de fana.
My brother would send me an errands, and the old man himself, I believe he had much more confidence in me, and I think he liked me more than any of them, So when he when he wanted Dettol, when he wanted anything, it will be Ousainou Darboe.
In 1969, Ousainou obtained a scholarship to study law at the University of Lagos, or UNILAG in Nigeria.
I was the first Gambian to be at the University of Lagos, and before I could really acclimatize myself to the surroundings, it took maybe about 2 or 3 weeks. First thing, my first day in the dining hall was Gary, and I said, look, I cannot eat this. And I asked the matron to really give me curry uncooked. I would put sugar on it and eat that. And you find it very strange. But after amala, thing, I used to enjoy it, and pounded yam, moi moi, and my first time I ate snail. But when I was told it was snail, I just started thinking about what snail with its shell, and I said, "Oh no, my God, I cannot eat that." But when I tasted it, just looked like kidney. I enjoyed it, and I made a lot of friends. In fact, summer, Christmas, not Christmas holiday and Easter holidays, my friends would take me to their homes, outside of Lagos.
After obtaining his Bachelor of Laws, or LLB degree in 1972, Ousainou proceeded to Nigeria's Federal Law School for his BL program. In 1973, he became the first Gambian to be called to the Nigerian bar and was enrolled as a practitioner of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. But he returned to the Gambia the same year to work with the Ministry of Justice as public prosecutor.
There were only two other law officers, that is the Registrar General and the Solicitor General. I was the third. So there were only three law officers, and I was really doing all the running around, coming to the provinces to prosecute, go to the courts in the Kanifi, in Banjul to prosecute, and in Banjul, when we are doing prosecution in Banjul, people used to come to watch, because then Chayasin and Ousainou Darboe on the opposite side, Pap Chayasin and Ousainou Darboe on the opposite side, was quite entertaining to the public, because all of us, we were young, young people, the way we think,
Well, Ousainou is senior to me, actually, in terms of age, at least 7 years or so. And it was in the late 70s when Ousainou was a young lawyer. And I was also a young man, actually, and I used to admire him because he was somebody who was going to court and achieving results, outcomes that are positive, meaning his clients were winning. And, his name was very popular in the country.
Ousainou would rise through the ranks to become state counsel, registrar of companies, curator of interstate estates, and legislative draftsman. In 1977, he went to the University of Ottawa in Canada, where he obtained his Master of Laws, or LLM, degree 2 years later. In May 1980, he resigned from public service and established a private law practice under the name Basangsang Chambers.
In 1980, I was still in the judiciary, then as Master of the High Court. Mr. Darboe himself was then Principal State Counsel. But I don't know how you would describe it. As it so happened, we both left the service at the same time in 1980. And also, by coincidence, we both went into private practice in the same month of the same year, in October 1980. We set up our different chambers.
Antuman and Ousainou would immediately become partners and brothers, jointly taking up cases and defending the same clients on a regular basis.
The thing is before you can associate with anybody, in my view, you have to be of like mind. Mr. Darboe and I, even though we came from totally different backgrounds, somehow Allah brought us together, and we became associates. We collaborated on a lot of cases at the time in the 80s onwards, until in fact one of the judges gave us a name that whenever we two appear, he would say, "Oh, this is the old farm of Darboe and Gay appearing again." So we became more like big brother, young brother, rather than partners. Our association went beyond the professional aspect of it.
By the end of 1980, Ousainou the lawyer was a son on the rise. While he was gaining fame as a human rights lawyer in the courtroom for successfully defending especially the poor and the downtrodden, he also dedicated himself to his young family and his friends outside the courtroom.
Growing up being the only boy of the family, and given the fact that I was named after his beloved father, Numukunda Darboe, I was special to him, I guess, and I guess was able to get stuff from him that I wanted. Just using that relationship of Numukunda Darboe. Otherwise, he made sure we had everything that we needed.
I was born exactly the same day my father died. And my sister fondly tells me, it's like when I was born, my mom sent her to go deliver the message to my dad, who was at the hospital at that time. And then she said when she delivered the message to him, he just had some blessings for me. And I think a couple hours or 3 hours later, that's when he passed away. So I never got to see him, and he never got to see me. So Lawyer Ousainou Darboe was the only father figure we know in the Gambia, because he was the one that was present there. So everything that a father did for his children, he did that for most of us.
Ousainou has been a very good husband to us, and he's been a very good dad to our kids. He's always been there for them. He provides whatever they want, and he always makes sure that both the wives and the kids are happy at all times.
Very caring, always made sure we had the best, but at the same time, he ensured that we were grounded. Obviously, he was one of the most successful lawyers in Gambia, but he also made sure that, like I said, that we were grounded. So going to studies, he will make sure we walk home. A driver, Basolo, could have picked us up, but no, we had to walk home from Mrs. Ndao, the ex-peoples, that's where I was, to Pipeline. He always, made sure that we were always occupied. He would send us to Sapo, because Papa was working at Sapo, so we'll go to Sapo, explore Sapo, then Bansang and Dobo. But I think one thing that was very important to him, that he made sure all his kids was family. As you know, he doesn't have a lot of biological kids, but he has a lot of extended family. And when we were kids, I used to be angry with him because every holiday, Easter, Christmas, summer, by force, Dobo and Bansang.
Ousainou nekk na papa joo xam ne dafa emale doomam yi ñi nga xam ne moo leen jur ak ñim jurut ñëpp la boole emale soo ko fekkee si kër fu mu nekkee ak doomam yeeg xale yim yar ak ñeneen dangaa ne déedéet doo xam kanaay kan nekk na papa ju am yërmande nekk na papa joo xam ne bugut pour gis doomam buga dara mbaa mu nekk ci dara loo xam ne dafa soxla ndimbal munut ko koo defal loolu moom lu ko sonal la.
Several times actually, we met at Bakau and we used to sit together. But then they were all my seniors, himself, Dr. Boro Suso, Dr. Serif Sise in particular. Then Ousainou and I and Boro and Dr. Sise used to be in the same car moving around different parts of the country, from Bansang to Jara, to Nyani, where Dr. Sise also came from. And we even went out of the country to different parts of Senegal, Mauritania, Casamance also.
Kari wo kari, waran kare fula wo kare fula. Asimbe invite ya. Ay tabiri baake, ay lonna kilin kumandi, nga tinyanje birin somanda fo lansara suma, boda akabendi maasole fede nyoboringo diata ate ya diata ntolbe. Ni la kurata woto nganna domorol ka ngamin fengol beme, bulo ku nga bulan na motol la ngata nyoboringo la. Ida betikania waran bundung aren babum fati.
Back in the courtroom, Ousainou's biggest opportunity as a lawyer came in 1981 in the aftermath of a failed coup led by Kukoy Samba Sanyang against President Sir Dawda Jawara and his PPP government. Opposition leader Sheriff Mustafa Diba was arrested along with members of the National Convention Party, NCP.
The leader of the failed coup was Kukoy Samba Sanyang, who happened to be NCP candidate for Fonyi East. There was this suspicion around the NCP people that they may have a hand in this.
The insurgency or mutiny having been quelled, there were a lot of arrests. And those that were really taken for trial, I defended most of them, including my young brother, Momoturo Darboe. I defended them. But then Sheriff's case, because Solo Darboe was mentioned in the indictment as being a conspirator, that Kukoy Samba Sanyang, Sirif Mustafa Diba, so and so, conspired with Kukoy Samba Sanyang and Solo Darboe, to overthrow the government of the Gambia, and then they gave all their particulars.
When news was received that Sirif was to face court, so some of senior members of the NCP, particularly Solo Darboe, who was also influential and one of the financiers, they were thinking of going to London to hire the services of Barton Macaulay, a Sierra Leonean who was then QC, Queen's Counsel lawyer, who was based in London.
Solo was friends with Barton Macaulay. He really thought that this case was such a high-profile case that he needed to really get a QC. At least psychologically, maybe that would be, the prosecution will find that challenging, the government of Gambia will find that challenging. He spoke to me about it, but I told him that, well, Uncle, I think you are really losing hope. I think you are getting in a state of desperation. Why should you go to UK to get a lawyer to defend Sheriff Diba in this matter? I would take up the case with my friend Anm Gay. And in fact, we will not ask for fees. So Anm Gay and I have virtually set up an informal human rights defendant institution. We go in for where there is abuse of human rights, we go in pro bono. He agreed, although very reluctantly.
Sadauda, being the Democrat he was, he vowed that all those people who were arrested, he was going to make sure that they were given a fair trial and hearing. He imported judges, lawyers, judges to preside over cases, and lawyers to prosecute cases. And he said he was not going to allow any Gambian to be a prosecutor. So those judges, one came from England, the rest came from Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and Ghana. The Gambian participation was to defend those who are charged.
No kit Mengbe Kering dular ka kontim back. Adun tele mula messenger ka book courthouse kana officer. E kanki munella kanki bukol tala otum mola nta mankarang bal bukol meni to solo tam melula ngolo bol bukol konole. Bolum tu bolum tiri kana la lo bukolo Nigeria la lo bukolo ni to salta men ni afanyen sita ko mana nganatina.
We used to be in my dingy office in Cameroon Street up to midnight. And Alhamdulillah, I remember Kozwansi, a very experienced lawyer. He was Attorney General in Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah. He was brought in to prosecute, especially brought in to prosecute Revdiba, and he had one Mr. Thompson, an English lawyer, as his junior. You know, and they had laid out their plans on Sheriff Diba, that how much he was opposing Sadauda in the cabinet, you know, when things come up, and they wanted to bring in the cabinet papers. Yeah. And when they attempted it, you know, straight away we knew where he was going. You know, we whispered to each other, said, "Look, this is where this case is going to collapse." You know? And when he produced the document, wanted to tell that, I rose up to take objection. My objection was upheld, and I said, Alhamdulillah. That deflated Kozwansi, you know. And understand my koto and my very humorous person. Just said, "Tell Moko, my melon nat butoy." You can look at him. He looks like a guinea fowl that is a soaked guinea fowl, because the way he was going up and down. You know where guinea fowl that how they just yeah.
There were 53 witnesses arranged against Sheriff Mustafa Diba. Darboe won the case. Gratis, he refused to be given a butut.
When the judge pronounced judgment, the state prosecutor, Kozwansi, he congratulated us, particularly Mr. Darboe, for the sort of work. He said he never realized, he didn't think there were lawyers of that quality in the Gambia. I cannot describe to you the jubilation that took place in court.
After the 1981 trial, Ousainou became a star lawyer and a household name in the country, alongside Antuman. Together, they appeared before the courts week in and week out, defending clients, showing a great deal of generosity, selflessness, and service to humanity along the way.
Kesi sam, lu bari ci kesi sami, du daan charge fees. Because danga ñëw am yenay sax man dama daan lifin sax comme danga ñëw won ko ne ko amuloo comme like ñu la néewal doole waaye amuloo yooñu lak la dee gën a sawar dina la kiisal dina la fayal filing fees. Maa ngi fàttali ko du ma tudda tur am na benn waay dañ ko daaxoon liggéey kaayam ñi nga kooku bim ñëwee su daan ñëw koot comme su ñëwee koot nii war a delsi beneen koot moo ko dee jox paas pour kooku ñëw koot mu win keesam bi ñu compensate ko kooku foo naa kera bi mu ñëwee ba jël cegam bi si lañ ko gëj a gis yooyu noonu yu baree xam nga duma tudda turi nit ñi dafa bari.
I see it, and Mr. Darboe saw it as serving the public. That was why, for very, very many years, you will not come to our chambers or go to Mr. Darboe's chambers and be asked what we call consultation fee. No, we never charge that. And in fact, not only consultation fee, but actual legal fees as well. If I tell you the people who owe us legal fees, which are still unpaid, you will be surprised.
He will come home and he had benches at home for people to see. You come at home around, Maghrib time, when we pray Maghrib, you'll see people lined up sitting on benches at home waiting for him. Those are clients that want to have consultation with him. So work continued from office to the home. So it's a hard worker. And then he would bring home multiple books. And sometimes he will ask us to wake him up, after we study, because the high school students, we study and then go to bed. And he's like, when you're going to bed, can you wake me up? That's when we wake him up and he will study. He studied probably more than us in high school. He was a lawyer. He was a seasoned lawyer already, but he had several books, several cases. He read it. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was one of the most successful lawyers. I don't think many lawyers did that. He studied hard.
By the late 80s towards early 90s, Ousainou's courtroom excellence and impressive outcomes had earned him enormous confidence and respect. His intense cross-examination of prosecution's witnesses and ability to capture the attention of judges and magistrates to believe in his client's innocence helped propel him to national stardom. Thanks to these attributes, he became the retained lawyer for many successful Lebanese businesses in the country. In the public sphere, he was hired as retained lawyer by multiple parastatals. Among them, the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation, the Central Bank of the Gambia Livestock Marketing Board, Gambia Airways, the Gambia Public Transport Corporation, and the Gambia Telecommunications Company Limited, GAMTEL. In fact, he incorporated GAMTEL, drafting all the instruments for the transfer of the assets of the cable and wireless to the telecoms company.
1987, I moved to the Gambia Public Transport Corporation. But before I moved to the Gambia Public Transport Corporation, in 1984-85, I was also the chairman of GAMTEL. We started GAMTEL together. I was the first chairman, and then you had Bakari Njai as general manager. And Ousainou, because there were fewer lawyers in the Gambia, he had moved to private practice, by the way. Private lawyers, and he was actually the lawyer for GAMTEL. He was the lawyer for Livestock Marketing Board, where I was managing director. And even GPTC, he was one of, the lawyers, corporate lawyers. He performed exceedingly well, all along. He was not selected because he was a friend. He was selected because of his professional, excellence in delivering, cases, meaning exactly in winning cases, that actually we passed over to him.
We have no plans to stay long. All we are here for is to set a just system and to put out structures that will ensure that what happened in the past 30 years will never happen again.
In the late 1996, 2 years after the military coup that brought Yahya Jammeh to power, a group of Gambians approached the popular Ousainou to lead a new opposition party against Jammeh. There was looming dictatorship, and the three main political parties, PPP, NCP, and Gambia's People's Party, GPP, were banned through a decree by the AFPRC military junta.
Senior members across these three political parties came together and discussed as to the way out. Then one gentleman came with a suggestion there. He had a proposal. Now, this is a gentleman who is currently not here, that he went to America for the Olympic Games, to watch the Olympic Games, and that was Ousainou Darboe.
I was in Atlanta attending the Olympic Games, and I do not know how a gentleman called Alaisio Kande, we commonly call him Job Kande, I don't know how he got the telephone number of the hotel I was living in, Marriott Hotel I was living in. He, by phone rang, I picked it up, and started say, "Hey, Ousainou, how are you doing? It's me, Alai Job Kante." Well, people have got together, and we and other people have got together, and we are forming a party. We want you to lead the party. I said, please, cut it out. I want to concentrate on my practice. I want to continue helping my people. I said, please, leave me alone.
And I guess 96, I was young. I think I was like 13 years at the time. So Natalie Natanu, we came on a trip to the Olympics. I was with him in Atlanta in 96 that summer. So during Kolbe Kelang, I didn't really know what was going on. He never really discussed anything with me. So I just came for my holidays, spent some time at the Olympics. Then I intended to come again in America to spend the rest of the summer. So I came to Gambia.
He was here for the Olympics. So we all met at our older brother's house, whom I told you about, Dr. Darboe in Maryland. That's when he broke the news to all of us as family gathering.
When I came back in August, by Maghrib time, can't remember the first name, but he used to live in Kanifing. It's from Jara, a Mr. Jajusi. He came to my residence, then I was living in Kanifing, and said that, well, you should expect people visiting you, because we want a leader. And my response was, please leave me alone. And 2 days after, one of my friends, Dr. Sise, this also about Maghrib time, he came to our VU in Bakau and said, look, I think you should be honest with people. If you are not going to accept responsibility, tell them that I'm not accepting, I'm declining, so that people can move on and get some other person. And then I started to think there must be some seriousness in these approaches. And the following day, a group of people came on, including Keba Tambajame, Jallo Sane, Abu Karamba Kasama, and I recall also, I think Abu Karamba Kasama was that, Majankosa and Sidi Jaude. I remember them. And they came out and said this was what they wanted, that their leaders had met, Hassan Musa, Sheriff Diba, and of course Saudada was also in contact in thought that they should really approach me to be to lead this party.
Ousainou asked the group to give him time to consult his family both in the Gambia and abroad before taking any decision.
pour dem waxtaani jeeg magam ñeeg kilifaam yi nekk foofu noonu man dama soonoon because dafa am yenn paa yoo xam ne dañ ma daan kool yenn suba teel ana Ousainou ñu ne dafa tukki ñëwagut ma ne déedéet ñëwagut dimbale ñu nga koolal ñu ko nga wax ko ne na ñëw léegi li moo mun di def foofu na ko bàyyi ñëw déglu suñ wax ji jàppa suñ yoon biñ ko xelal pour ñu mun ñoo génne ci liñ bugg a génn su ko defee ma ne waaw dinaa wax.
I was not in the Gambia. I was in the United States of America, and he joined me there to inform me officially of his decision. And to be honest with you, I never wanted politics, and he knew that. So he came, he said, Maya, I'm sorry, but the Gambian people have interest in me to lead the United Democratic Party, and it is time that somebody has to sacrifice for our children and our grandchildren. So I told him, Ousainou, even though I don't like politics, you have supported me all my life in whatever I wanted to do until I achieved that goal. So I am behind you. I will give you all the support I can until whatever God decides in the end.
I was in the US when he came, so he informed us, and I think I was about 20 at that time, but still a kid, so I was really excited because it's like we're going to State House. You know, the State House, that's nice, you know, without thinking of the consequences. Then he sat us down, the few of us that were in Maryland at that time, and said, it's good to be excited, but this is not going to be easy. This is a military, and I could be killed. I never knew what maimed was at that time, but he said I could be killed, maimed, murdered, or imprisoned. He said, you guys have to be ready for that. But it was too abstract, honestly, at that time, because the fight had not begun.
I came first to hear, saw my mother. I told her, well, this is what I've been asked to do. Government have approached me, you know. And I don't want to say anything without consulting you. As he said, well, since Gambians have confidence in you, you have my blessing. Go. God will protect you. Gambian ko lejik dela, yera jiko ta ya dela. Ta yam fata. Adu ala si kanta. I went to Bansang also and spoke to my uncle, Kambrama. He also said, look, if out of all these people in the Gambia, you have been approached, why should you decline that? Please, go ahead and accept it. But before then, when I was coming down here, I met a gentleman, or a gentleman bumped into me in summer. I was filling my gas, my vehicle. He came on a motorbike. He was very, with big beard. He stopped by, looked at me, looked at me for a little while and said, "You are Ousainou Darboe?" I said, "Yes." He was speaking to me in Mandinka. And he said, "Please, don't disappoint us. Please, don't disappoint us. Please, don't disappoint us." 3 times. And his tears started rolling down. That really impacted on me. And then, with the approval by my mother, I mean, that really gave me the elan.
Wolun suto bringa nata fanang ntele mo foloti ay min kumandi bunko otum kat suto lem na wulta nana da fo nyin korda kono jangotumo alaji bokora wala masakewoti e wala alkaloti bringa wala bunda konkon ko kada ko kayra doron non kayra doron Ousainou kay ko banko moli en tombonde e ko jikke yen tombon ase pressure pour banko la ko kammala so nada wo sarole la akay ko mbe ko mabbi mbe ko masini yim banko be tembo minto londo min bete bulu amma nyanna wesla ngalon ko nim banko mboli yete tombong fu ala yete ke president yim banko kan woto de be mol nyaada fitalale.
So he came and told them, well, I'm okay. I'm acceptable now. So this is how this man became a politician. Politics went into Ousainou. He did not go into politics.
Olu memman kumbondul fangol kono dango doyatal de katu killing ala fon sonta o jusula kan wen kumbondi bari bisilari mbake no nati fana yem fel ngata betal fula a fanju banga a fango kumbota to momen ke kilinten tul kono memman nyanjo jolongulu nga kadu nga force to dundi kulata malaf. Ousainou was the wealthiest lawyer in this country. Nde nsi fem fo no ejel. Ani sinte akenente anna fulunti kodo babulun afirinta baki anda hinante ata law firgo soto kam.
And we started then working on the documents properly. This gentleman, Bemba Tambedo, was there, Sidia Sanya. And with my current secretary, Fatu.
There were times when, the security aspect or atmosphere in the country at the time was a bit dicey. Not many people were prepared to come out openly, in support of the party. So we were a few brave ones, I would say. Sidia Sanyang, in whose house the first meetings to set up the UDP were held in Pipeline, and Bolong Sonko, who was also a member of the UDP at the beginning, and a few other people like Fabus, who had a stationery shop in Banjul, and Fat Nyang, who was the typist at the time. And our work was to develop the new manifesto and the party constitution. And we worked tirelessly in a couple of weeks, to do that.
Nda inte kumandila, inte prepare. Ako nye sera nkaya ako nye dol fatatal. Yal nte kandita da manding dol nyelte. Ako nye ko mbedu na politiko kon. Ako nye mo sineng mfisi atamiti. Sikuma yo mimanke nsong tefang bada labi eta. Adu malafa le mo jabi.
As usual, during our cases, And then one day we were upstairs by the library. We were standing waiting for our case to be called, and he came to me and he said, I could see he was in a very somber mood. He said to me, look, I have something to tell you. I said, what? What is that? He said, I have decided to go into politics. Just like that. That's how he told me, in court. You know, so that's the man. You know, he's a very simple, unassuming guy.
mu ngi dugg ci politique 1996 fekk ñun ñu ngi dem school teg njabootam xamal ñu ne moom mooy politique suñ demee school buñ xuloo buñ saaga lu ko waaye wax rek baax na te xam ne moom mooy politique ñu seen kilifa yi politique guñ.
Nobody was willing and ready to contest Yaya Jammeh. You had one person like him who was willing and ready to sacrifice everything, you know, to contest for the betterment of the Gambia as a whole.
On August 23, 1996, the new party, the United Democratic Party, or UDP, was officially launched. There was widespread fear and chaos in the country, triggered by escalating dictatorship. There was already a reign of terror, and the ethical and moral fabric of the Gambia society was being stretched to a breaking point. The people galvanized, put their hopes in UDP to get the country back on track. The September election was fast approaching, and the people were fired up, resulting to huge crowds at UDP rallies across the country.
We are ordinary citizens, ordinary folks. We have nothing to intimidate people. Absolutely not.
You didn't reply me about the first question. What are your chances?
My chances?
Yes.
I don't know whether I should use the Latin word res ipsa loquitur. You know?
But can you
I mean, if you look outside there, and this is just from the greater Banjul area, not from other parts of the country.
Right.
But that wasn't enough to stop the dictatorship. Ousainou lost to Jammeh in an election widely condemned as flawed because of the absence of a level playing field. Ousainu's new status as opposition leader was met with scoffing disdain by Jammeh. It wouldn't take long before his regime hit the UDP leader where it felt it would hurt the most, his pocket. The authorities compelled government institutions that retained him as lawyer to pull the plug. Many individual clients were also either intimidated into abandoning him or they voluntarily turned their back on him out of fear.
I had been defending people before the commissions, the PPP ministers. You know, when Bakar Njai, you know, and others were taken before the commission. And for Gamtel, I didn't appear for Bakar Njai, but I was appearing for Gamtel. It was the William Commission. Because I was defending Gamtel and my client. And it was for Gamtel's interest that I was seeking. But they thought that, you know, I was really siding with Bakar Njai. You know? And when I was, Bakar Njai called me and said, look, I'm sorry, I've been instructed to take away the retainers from yourself. I said, well, thank God. You know? And Social Security also. They also took away their retainer. You know? Gambia Airways, EPTC, Continent Bank, which I had formed as the lawyer, also a retainership was taken from me.
So losing all of those, and then even clients started running away from the office because, you know, people don't want to be seen affiliated with Lawyer Darboe because of politics.
I must here pay tribute to one or two of those people that in spite of all the intimidation, all the harassment, they stood by Mr. Darboe. One of them is the late Faiz Mahmoud. His shop was in Wellington Street, in the premises where Mr. Darboe had his chambers, 1819 Wellington Street. People go to him, tell him all these things. He said, look, me, I don't care. He's my lawyer, he's my lawyer. That's Faiz Mahmoud. The other people are the Diab family, of course. Raif Diab, he's late now, and the other brother, Ahmed. Those are people, these are genuine people who stood by Mr. Darboe through thick and thin.
On the political front, the Gambia was very much under a full-blown dictatorship by the end of 1996, and Jammeh had ticked all the boxes in dictator checklist. In what international human rights group said was one of Africa's most notorious dictatorships, the regime used violence to suppress dissent and hound dissenters, a chilling brutality against UDP in particular. State-sponsored disappearances, arbitrary arrests, and torture targeted at UDP militants were common. Among the victims, prominent members Wassa Jane, the late Shingo Nyasi, and the late Femi Peters.
I told Shingo, let's be ready, because at this time of the night, don't expect that we are going to be released. Let's expect anything. And at that time, we were ready for anything. It could be death, it could be anything. So they took us out, and then that was the time they started torturing us at the back of the NIA. Daba Marena was the torturing, organizing official. We were severely tortured.
They were arrested together with about 7 people for holding a political rally. We could not trace his whereabouts for quite a while. I could vividly remember those days when my mom and my sisters will be running over police stations to look for his whereabouts.
The government has no respect for human rights. The government continues to violate the human rights like the way you violate, some of us violate the 10 Commandments. You understand? It's a habit. It's not only a habit, it's a practice.
2 arrests. The first was in 2010, and this was like Good Friday. That pained him. He took the personal because he said he told me they arrested him, I think, the day before Good Friday. So he couldn't perform his Christian duties, and he was really offended by that. And by then, he was like 64, and was given 8 months. So in my mind, 8 months is like not too much time. You could work with that. But it was still harrowing because I knew his health was failing, and Mile 2 is not a great place you want to send your daughter, anybody with failing health. And it was a long 8 months for the family. I was worried sick. Anytime I got a call from back home and I watched my phone, I thought, oh gosh, hope this is good news. But we came out of it. And my dad being my dad, the first thing he said when I said, welcome back, he said, it was an exciting experience. I'm like, oh God, here we go again. But that's my dad for you.
Sometimes it goes like every 3 months, barely, we expect that something will happen. Because he was arrested in 1997, 2001, 2004. Also, months alternately, it does happen. You cannot count the number of times that he was victimized. And then the family it came at the point that the family became used to some of these things, that when it happens, we see that something that it's normal. He goes like 3 months, 2 months without us having access to him.
As the Jammeh regime escalated its repression, UDP members were at risk in both their homes and in the street, and Ousainou's personal security was as important to the party as that of any other member. 2 Senegalese security experts were tasked to protect him.
Métti woon na trop definitely tough time lañ joxoon waaye ñun definitely suñ programme bi ñoo start ak Mr. Darboe moo nekkoon di 96 elections waaw loolu moo nekkoon suñ programme ñu ne ni que nañ nekk ak moom ba liggéey ak moom for these elections after ñu seet nan la ñoo def waaye lii yàlla dogal after elections guddi googu noonu gars yi am luñ prepare woon against Mr. Darboe pour jéem ko jël daal ci këram so bi ñu amee information boobu noonu ci lañu mooy boy remember mooy dugg bi Mr. Darboe duggoon ci Senegalese embassy then at the time Senegalese embassy mi ngi taxaloo woon ak kër Mr. Darboe bi nekk pipeline so mooy dugg boobu mu dugg foofu noonu so bi yàlla dogalee ñu dugg fexe ba mu dugg foofu throughout that period mi nga xamante ni mi ngi nekkoon absent dëgg-dëgg ci la ñu amaat beneen consciousness ci mbir mi ni lii dafa serious trop ñu gis how frail naka la méttee ci njaboot gi naka la méttee ci parti supporters yi.
liggéey bi yombul woon parce que ku xamoon ni Yaya Jammeh nu mu doon rouler Gambia da nga xam ni que liggéey métti surtout nga ma nekkoon gan nekk sénégalais boo xam ni ko dama doon ñëw di liggéey foofu ak looy daal bi yore sécurité kon du woon yomb. am na benn côté boo xam tamit bon dinaa ni yomb na yombaay bi lu ko waral mooy lan parce que boo àndee un leader bu mel ni Ousainou Darboe nga xool engagement am nga xool bëgg-bëggam ak bëgg réewam ak dëggam ak bëgg dëggam nga xam ni ko vraiment kon liggéey bi boo xoolee ci moom ci à son âge da kon liggéey bi de mën nga ni courage lay nekk ci yow saa yu demee ba metti boo gestoo xool ko rek da ngay am courage waaw.
The regime's brutalities against UDP supporters continued unabated. In fact, Jammeh would often refer to them in derogatory terms and threaten to bury them.
Let me warn you, those evil vermin called opposition, if you want to destabilize this country, I will bury you 9 feet deep and no Westerner dare say anything. Let me make that very clear.
In the face of brutalities and provocation, Ousainou remained calm and had always asked his supporters to be law-abiding even when the atrocities were relentless. Whenever his militants suggested physical confrontation to defend themselves against the regime's heavy-handedness, he would opt for court action, respect for the rule of law. As a result, he was called a coward and a weak leader by his own people.
You cannot have a substitute for peaceful operation of political activities. The only thing that you can do, especially when you are an advocate of constitutionalism, you just have to continue impressing on your supporters that what we have to do is to maintain peace and tranquility in the country. Otherwise, it's not going to be beneficial to anyone if the Gambia is put on fire.
He's a very calm person, and I don't remember a time that I've heard him raise his voice. Most of the time, I'll be sitting very close to him and I don't hear what he's saying because he's very soft and calm.
Mr. Darboe is a very shy man. He's very modest, but he has nerves of steel. Nothing can scare him. Don't see him at his small stature. I would say he's the bravest of all brave men in this country. There's no doubt about that.
On Saturday, April 16, 2016, Ousainou would be pushed to take to the street finally, instead of going to the court to seek redress. It all started 2 days earlier when Solo Sandeng, UDP's National Organizing Secretary, and some party militants staged a peaceful protest at Westfield demanding for electoral reforms. A few moments into the protest, security agents arrested Solo and others and took them away. Friday evening, Ousainou received some disturbing news from an informant about Solo and colleagues.
Solo Sandeng and his guys were in detention, and Mr. Darboe received information that Solo was seriously badly tortured and that he died as a consequence overnight. Then he called, this was on a Friday night, that he called me to say that, well, he had this information that Solo died in detention, and people like Fatoumata Jawara, Fatou Kamara, and some of these detainees were badly tortured, and they are seriously suffering. So, and that Solo was secretly killed and buried at Tanje. He received that information.
Daf ma call mu ne ma Solo Sandeng rey nañ ko man maa ngi soloon lifin odo ni suma manaan ni di pare fii laa toog taalal suma tànkay suma yaram bi yëpp di lox mënumaa dem fen.
That evening, Fanta and Papa D were at my house because they had came for holiday. He called my line and said, "Nakanja, albe munela, hausa ikang bejirinde kwari kera. Nka molbe do morola. Nka munem Solo le banta. Nka banta nyadile iko ya fale." This was around 11 p.m.
I yama call ngaje yama bota telephone. She was crying, so ngani nikamune kera. Na ko baba ko Solo Sandeng yole torture fa fani to taje. So we all got into the vehicle into the pipeline ngataraje, and then we ngasuno jan nyakono. He was very painful to hear that news, and then so we all sat as a family. Nganyininka was going to be the next steps, what they were going to do as the party. So I go, they were thinking about it, and then Wosamo, they were supposed to have a executive meeting with the executive to decide what direction they were going to do. So we started asking him what was his personal thoughts of what he was going to do. So he started telling us his plans, and then we all agreed at that point Solo shouldn't have been tortured to death.
This executive committee meeting, and they decided that, well, we'll have to really go out the following day, the 16th, and ask for release of Solo Sandeng, dead or alive.
Somo suba keta fajiro, we got up, ayasaloke, ayala al-Quran karanke, and then eventually Solo the family came to the house early morning, close to 7 a.m. because they had the news on social media, but he didn't want to confirm the Solo status at that time, so he wanted to follow due protocol kata alpha ya then kata suo kono ka cold and tema. So ntele Solo la muso na dimani Fatoumata Sandeng. I drove them back to their house and then came back to Pipeline, and then bring Baba Pereta
another mole. Then we went back, and then he had all the elders that Anm Talanum. Then we went back to Solo's home. Then I Kibado Dante Watolonting.
We are a family, and we know how a father is important to a family. If Yaya Jammeh is there sitting with his family, or whoever arrested my father, let him know that the father has his family. And how he is important to his family is how our father is important to us.
We came here and got white cloth. We were the ones that made the banner, Papadi and myself, and my Sise. I was typing these slogans that people were holding. Papadi was coloring in. He was sitting here coloring in, and he said, we need to get Gambian flags. So we went to Timbuktu. We wanted the big ones, but we could not get it. We got every flag that was available at Timbuktu.
On Saturday, April 16th, Ousainou, surrounded by UDP executive members, held a press briefing in Pipeline to announce he and his officials were going out in protest to demand that Solo be handed over to them dead or alive, and the other detainees be released.
Malaf moy kuma fadala me alan ka kuma kurunna be menno ma al solo dinna afure wala balure fatma ta bula no go njanyol bula al yemel ares al bula mbom nolo kuma le funta malaf moy monen malaf moy ni moy be ni mote ben siloka ya ko be to ni bala bila malaf wa bitalo ne peaceful demonstration nimme yen soto jeto Gambia le jare tanyala natra solo sifa dinding natra sifa Gambia ye muna tanyata bali tanyata sila kafa Gambia ye I ask all of you for the it's going to be orderly. The leadership telebetar la nyato to mali bulani ninka so be moy fulo mal antel abentale fulo mal to malafi atel mal me alan kam ko malaf momo e trañado albe tran ko ba ngode amaro
it wasn't something that I was prepared for. I was just calling him to check how he was doing, knowing that he's lost one of his militants. And then he just gave you this news, say, I've had the conference, but I'm going out to ask. I said, okay then, that's fine. We are behind you, Baba. Whatever you do. But it's like, after when I put the phone down, my whole body was shaking.
I could remember Lamin Diba, when they called the meeting, he stood up. Why are we wasting time? If Solo has sacrificed his life, why should we wait? Let's all go out. There's nothing to discuss. Let's go.
Some of the family didn't want me personally to go out, but I will tell I didn't care. And we all knew anything can happen. We can all end up, losing our lives that day. I remember I was newly married. I was 5 months married. Then the Muso called the night before, Kafaiko, Samade, most likely Nina Bekela. People are gonna go out, and I don't see myself staying behind. I might most likely go, and I'm not sure what's gonna happen. But it cool keda. Nabe tung alabulunga karfa alama, and she'll be fine.
I name Papa di command. Na solo dimbayal karafalma. That's what he said. Na solo la dimbayal karafalma.
What he said was, I am going out. Whatever happened to me, my deputy will run the party. That was me. And he went out.
The protest was quelled a few minutes after it started as armed security forces clamped down on Ousainou and colleagues and arrested them.
I knew Nafi was there. My other cousin was there, and there's another boy that my mom brought up. They were there, all three of them from my mom's house. They were all there. So I called Nafi direct. When I called Nafi direct, and then Nafi answered, and then she was like, Jojo, I can't find Keba. I said, what do you mean I can't find Keba? She said, and she was like, Jojo, they put in Baba in the truck. They put in, and she could see it. She was standing there on the phone. And the next minute, the phone just went off. It was off.
ñu continuer ba àgga Elton Keraba Avenue so si la beneen truck bi ñëw so mu waaca gaay waaca door di dóor nit yi so si laa daw ma dem téye suma loxo papa bi ma ne ko ne baaba mu xool ma ne ko ne bàyyi leen démonstration bii nii kaa ñu dellu si kër bi balaa la gaay di gaañ si la ma puus si gannaaw mu xub oncle Lamine la wala oncle Femi mënuma remember so noonu la gaay continuer ñu dem so ñu dem ba àgga fii nii bugg a romb Elton bi rek si la gaay jëna door di leen dóor so ñoom oncle Lamine di ba ñoom oncle Femi ñu def ko si digga ñu soraan ko pour protect ko pour buñ ko gaay so foofu laa nekk di yuuxu di jooy di akati suma loxo bi fekk suma beneen brother alkaali tamit mu ngi taxaw suma gannaaw maa ngi ko ne alkaali ñu ngi dóor baaba ñu ngi koo gaañ so moom tamit xam naa ni ma doon yuuxoo noonu mu ngi ko doon disturb so mu jël ma mu dugal ma si office Global Properties bi so ma duga fa ma nekk di jooy
When I was put on board the truck and taken to mile 2, forced without any court order, I knew that this is what I was destined for, and that as a politician under that tyrant, under that dictator, I should expect that. I shouldn't expect my rights to be respected in any way. So psychologically, I was ready. The only time they really nearly succeeded in breaking me down emotionally and psychologically was at the PRU, when I saw Fanta walk in. That really, Fanta Jawara. When I saw Fanta Jawara walk in, that really put me in a state.
How did I go to prison with him? Maybe only God knows. So, because Yama was there, Papadi, and many others, I told them that I'm going to see my mother-in-law. So I sent someone to put gas in the car. Went to receive money from my husband. On my way back, that's how I got arrested. So.
She had wounds all over, her hands. Her plate, the braided hair, was forcefully fucked up, and she was bleeding. And I was also bleeding. But then he came, sat by me, cuddled me, and then with a tissue, mopping my head, and said, Baba, it will be okay. With that word, Baba, it will be okay, that kind of surged my courage.
Ousainou and Co. were prosecuted for holding a demonstration without permit. Couple of weeks into their detention, they started looking malnourished, sick, largely as a result of poor food quality and bad conditions in prison. Each time they appeared in court in Banjul, in public, the health of especially Ousainou had deteriorated, sparking fear and anxiety in his family.
bés bi gaa ñëwee si code bi family bi ñëpp a ko fiil family si yëpp nekk foofu noonu waaye ba tey comme li ma la wax rek man maa jënoon a dégër gaay yaa ma jooy na fa ba soona su ma yaay jooy na ñoom na ni may ñëpp fiil nañ ko because of bi gaay ñëwee soo leen gisee dégga di nga xam ne gaay nekkuñ woon si jaama.
They look cachectic. That's what we, the medical term that we use, cachectic. They're so skinny, lost so much weight, and all you think about is malnutrition. You know, those are kind of the ways that the people that have cancer look like, because their body, cancer is eating up their body. You know, so they look cachectic. So you're worried that, you know, they have electrolyte imbalance, lack of protein, and all of those can, you know, lead to a whole bunch of different problems. You can have kidney issues, you can have heart issues from arrhythmias. And so as a medical practitioner, I'm thinking about all those things. One of these people can just drop dead, can just drop and die at any moment because of the malnutrition and the condition they were in.
It was very hard because I have grandchildren who couldn't understand. Why is he in prison? When is he coming home? And I couldn't explain that to them.
He's in mile 2, a place near Banjul, which has a lot of guards, and you have to be like above my age to visit there.
Do you know what happened to him?
Yes, I do.
You want to tell me?
No.
Why?
It's very emotional.
Do you miss him?
A lot.
When he was here, before he was taken into mile 2, what do you usually do with him?
Like, he takes us out to different places, sometimes to his job, telling us how he does his job and all. He sometimes takes us out like to the beach to enjoy ourselves, and we spend time together. Yeah.
When you see him, what will you tell him?
I'm gonna tell him how much I missed him and how hard it was without him around.
But still, I put up a brave face. People will meet here when we are going to court. After court, they will all come and have lunch here.
Under Jammeh, the court system was set up to protect his interests. So-called mercenary judges were often imported to do his dirty work. On July 20th, 2016, Ousainou and his 18 colleagues were sentenced to 3 years in jail by a Nigerian judge, Justice E. Odada. They were sent to the maximum security wing of Mile 2, the most notorious section of one of the most notorious prisons in the sub-region.
The day got sentenced, I said to myself, 3 years, 70 years old, in Mile 2, I think you're going to come out in a box. I gave up because I said to myself, Jammeh had vowed not to release them even when he won the election. So I said to myself, that's it. I don't think I'm going to see my dad alive again. And I gave up. So the only way he would have gotten released was if Jammeh had lost the election. And trust me, I had no hope in that. I had no hope at all. I said to myself, you know what? I said, my dad is going to die in jail.
Mayonnaise buckets. That's what we use. At night from 5 o'clock, that's what you use that for to pass your urine in. And if you have a running stomach, that is what you use. Almost 14 days, we are locked up. We go out only, for an hour. Go and have a bath and go back.
It's very sad. One of the days I met with late Femi Peters, we were so happy to see each other. So when we approach it order to take hands, the guards, prison guards said, no, you cannot talk to him. You cannot talk to the judge. Simple discussion, they would not even allow us. And Ousainou, at one point we met at the family visit. He was receiving his family and I also came. So that's the time we had contact. But otherwise, they always want to isolate us from each other. They do not want us to communicate.
I didn't have a toilet. I didn't have a towel. And one Nigerian convict came to me and stood by and said, Uncle, I have a towel which I've never used. It's fresh. I also have toothbrush and toothpaste. The toothbrush is fresh. I've never used it. If you don't mind, I can give them to you. I said, thank you very much. So he gave me his towel and toothpaste. And when they allowed my family to bring in a towel and toothpaste and everything to me, I went to him and said, well, I have towel, I have toothpaste and everything, but this towel, can you allow me to keep it as a souvenir? And he agreed. So I have preserved it. They are still with me with the toothpaste, the soap, and the towel. I still have it. And even the cup, Ovaltine cup, which I was using when I want to drink water, pouring water in it, I have it. The pail, in which I look after myself, I also have it. They're all preserved.
When the judge made the judgment that the family can go visit, we tried to go visit telling lawyer Nene Cham that whole mile to Bundato, and they said, well, even though the court gave the order, they had no order from the top, so they wouldn't let any family. So when Neo Kuyanumbakele, because I know my dad was old at the time, I'm not sure if I was ever gonna see him again. So that was very emotional for me. And I started crying in the car. That was the toughest moment for me. But then, once, I got home, Ngokobe say Alabulu again. We just prayed and hoped for the best, and then Hoko justice will be served.
3 months after that, you could see him after they were convicted. That was difficult. I cried that day too, because he was in shorts and he was very small. So I think I went with Auntie Sally and Nanme, and actually not to even see him, because they allowed him only 2 or 3 visitors. So Auntie Sally, Nanme, and I think Binki Khadija too, got in. So I put my name for Uncle Femi, to go see Uncle Femi, to see also how he was doing and whatever he needed. But I saw Paisenu there, and I just started crying. Then he sent me a note from Mile 2, and I still have that note. And he basically said, Nakanja, don't do this. You are my source of strength, and you are very strong. So if you cry, that means that not everything's okay. And I need you to be strong for me. Seeing you like that today was very upsetting. Please never do it again. Be strong for me. Yeah. So that was tough.
There was a night, there was a smoke coming out, more electrical wiring in the bone canunje. So I end up having an asthma attack. Where I body tentable, it at that night. Yeah, ikai ko fanta fuila inhaler. Then you inhale and you nati. Then after that, police officers kept on coming to Runtala female wing into.
dad ko ngana nge check dad ko ngana nge check to me mbelali njen kafo ko malong what was he going through, but that moment mol bina kila bina dorong lem nga ntako no, I'm sure he is feeling something kafo ka malong for as manyin faye mbatandile fabem falale at least kabiri molbe PIU nabe siri nyo balale abenje kanne mfana mbaji kan, but this time you more separately amalong what I was going through personally intangamira wala that would have been a hardest moment.
biñ demee ba ma gis Ousainou ak lifinam bi xam nga dafa bari caaxaan moom duy jël dara mu dal di taxaw dal di ne seet leen suma lifin bi naka la mel suma kaala bi laa jël muur ko si suma kanam gi bugguma koo gis dama jooya ba mënuma téye suma bopp.
Later on, I was allowed to see them. I was very emotional, very much. But Darboe was still determined and told me, Ajam, don't cry. I cried, of course. I wept. Because it was sad to see him in prison, which we have never thought of, and it happened. To see him in such condition, the manner he was dressed.
Namina confinement to moy melore e usen samba confinement anala mulbe e ko entel sama musolbe dame ndunda konoto ndu wolo sira l'hôpital pour nga Ousainou je ndara lu ndo l'hôpital nga Ousainou taraji kar ko be mu ka sato mu ka bayno nga Ousainou taraji to yentel dunde sira lo kono ye Ousainou sandi sanjo koto peran koto fenkete je sanjo be kelayka ngamira nkumbota nyako be yabulal ntara jonkon ko nko lafta jonkon to nkumbota fo jonkon ko ngamira Ousainou la ntara jonkon ko nkumbota bar ko yarmadum imantambi kula nga nyafita.
Ousainou and co didn't serve the 3 years in jail. In December 2016, Anm Ousainou won the presidential election under the opposition coalition ticket against Jammeh, sparking wild celebrations across the country. The people had won against dictatorship. On December 5th, Ousainou and his colleagues were released from prison. They were received by family and supporters at a parked courtroom in Banjul.
Let me congratulate the Gambians for taking a historic decision, a decision to change the government, a decision that will affect the destiny and the future of this country. It's a very bold decision, and it's a decision that was taken in anticipation that the best will be done for this country. The Gambians have spoken, and they have spoken without any ambiguity.
For Jammeh to lose the election, my dad to get released. If you watch the pictures of my dad when he got released, just watch the pictures. He was all bones. You're talking about a 6'2", over 200-pound guy. The guy looks skinnier than me, and I'm not skinny. He was all bones, and that was just 8 months of the year. Imagine if he had to go 3 years of that, he wasn't going to survive it. So I thank the Gambian people, really, for giving my dad back, because I really owe them my dad. Because if they had not voted out Jammeh, my dad would have died in prison. He wouldn't have had the decent burial he had. So this is the platform I'm going to use to say, Gambian people, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for giving my dad back and for giving us a chance as a family to spend at least the remaining time he had since he got released. He had a chance to go be ambassador in Sierra Leone, the birth of his parents, some country, his heritage, and then to die at the service of this country, and then for us to bury him in a decent way. The Gambian people, I want to say thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm indebted to you guys. That was the best thing you guys did for me. giving back my dad. I appreciate that. Thank you, Gambians. Thank you very much.
I, Honorable Abubakar Numukunda Mbaro Ousainou Darboe, do swear that I will execute the functions of the Office of Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Ousainou was appointed foreign minister in February 2017 in a new government and then vice president in June 2018. He was relieved of his cabinet appointment on the 15th of March 2019 after falling out with President Barrow, his former protege. But his legacy remained.
I've taken Gambia out of international isolation, and of course, I have also sold Gambia's national development plan to the world, together with my young brother, my colleague, Anm Ousainou. I have done that. All these things that are talking about OIC and so forth and so on, myself as foreign minister, I crisscrossed the world with my chief executive, Lamin Sane.
All the funding, the preparatory work, he became vice president, chairman of the board. So he was leading and giving me directions of how we approach it and things. Even the roads that we were treated together. And he came up with very ideas about that Burufu to Ghana Town Ring Road that is part of the approved projects we're going to. He was very clear on those things that this should happen. It should happen. Even this Battle Heidi Kairaba Avenue, we need to change it because it's the main high street in Gambia. Why can't we think about how to improve it? So we went on those negotiations. He was behind, supporting me on the legal side, and I was focusing on the finance side with my OIC colleagues at the secretariat. And I went and negotiated the funding for the projects. The 98 million was virtually granted under his chairmanship. He was the chairman. But the signing, he was removed before we finalized the agreement here. Then he was removed as vice president. So virtually the OIC, for me, in the system, it was the foreign ministry with the help of Alaji Sise, chief of protocol, and Ousainou Darboe, who made it a reality.
It was a real chance for Gambia to come out again with the change. And Ousainou was a catalyst. I didn't attend the Commonwealth Conference in UK, but he went there with other ministers to put Gambia's case. The Gambia was readmitted into the Commonwealth. We also went back to the ICC, and we opened up diplomatic relations with a lot of other countries now that are holding back on the Gambia's diplomatic front. So he achieved a lot in that aspect. Then with China, he forged a very good, close relationship. And he was able to secure the assistance from the Chinese government for these URR roads and the bridges. It was his initiative. We went together also to the Brussels May 2018 donors conference, and he played a critical role in that. And after the conference, we did not come back with the President Adama Barrow. We took a train, a high-speed train to Paris to meet with the government officials there, agents Francais, their development wing, who promised us, some, investments in agriculture. And you can see URR, they started there. That's our initiative there. They also gave us 50 million euro as budget support.
He came to Nigeria
on an official mission with the former vice president when he was foreign minister. We met and had series of discussions about the Gambia, and I saw from him, his desire to support Gambia, even at his own expense, so that Gambia goes out of the, negativities that, will have been, developed over the earlier 21 years or 22 years.
He wanted, the government to succeed. He wanted, especially Adam Barrow, actually, he wanted Adam Barrow to succeed. So my private conversations with him, it's like, that's what it is. I'm sure he knows, how Ousainou feels about him.
Though Ousainou has since been dedicating most of his time to politics and the affairs of the UDP in particular, there are many success stories in the Gambian jurisprudence today that anybody can look back and say, thank God for lawyer Ousainou Darboe.
What I find very interesting about his contribution is this determination to get to the last level of our court system to prove points. And those points have become, as we say, locus classicus in terms of making referral or reference to those cases. A case in point is the case of Sar and others versus Juara, which was a case about the market, this weekly market called Lumo in Brikama. When the VDC of Brikama wanted to collect the rates and the daily tax from the market, and the governor stopped them. So Ousainou went to court on behalf of the community to assert the community's right to collect rates. Unfortunately, the case did not turn, favorable to them. But out of the case, some very good precedents were laid. It was able to determine the right of the Alcalo in the village. Because then the Alcalo of Brikama had three powers: power to collect rate, power to represent government in the village, but also to collect other rates different from the market rates. So the court was able to differentiate these three powers, and then the power to collect rates was then transferred to the area council, which became the precedent. Now area councils are collecting rates, and I'm sure through GRA also.
With an amazing grasp of the Constitution, Ousainou was renowned for his tirelessness and meticulousness in the quest to get to the bottom of cases he believed needed settling once and for all.
This is a person who would say, let's go to the next court for two things: either to prove his point, but also for the case to settle some legal doubts. And through Ousainou, so many doubts have been settled. I am sure the famous case that everybody knows him for, and he has participated, which produced very good legal principles, is the case of Fatou Badji versus Joseph Bassen. The case that came out from the old Joswang. It was about Sinana rice fields. That case settled our land issues. It was able to prove that in the Gambia there are 5 ways to prove a land. And that case is now the most cited case for proving land in the country. And Ousainou did that. And when I spoke to him about that, he said, I did not start that case. So he took the case from the appeal court level, and they lost. He said, no, I still believe that the issues are not settled. And he proceeded to the Supreme Court. And now, in the Gambia, you know how to prove title to land.
In every sphere and aspect of the law, Darboe's contribution is there. In about 1983-84, during the Senegambian Confederation, some terrible incidents happened in the Ponies. Sintet, Mayok, Arankon Kunda, Kamfenda, and other villages. The Senegalese, led by some Gambians, went to those villages and collected the village heads and elders and would take them to the Bantabas to be very, very badly humiliated and tortured. Now, I know one person, Boto Jaju from Sintet. He came and saw me and said, look, we cannot have this. These people, these are our elders. How can we allow this thing to happen? And Mr. Darboe, I said, look, we have to take them to court. We sued the government, South Africa's government. That case took a long time. It was done pro bono.
The case of Manson Dambele, who comes from my village of Lights. That case was important because people go to court for various reasons, especially businesses. And businesses who have suffered, or that have suffered, lost, would want to recover through damages. So the case now is the case most cited for specific and general damages, how to prove specific and general damages. So it was through Ousainu's tenacity and belief in the court system, especially belief in the appeal process, that the Supreme Court of the Gambia, in Manson Dambele versus WAEC, West African Examination Council, that the court was able to determine what constitute specific and general damages.
In all his career as a lawyer, Ousainou would go at any length to help promote the application of the law for justice, even if that means empowering the opposition lawyer. His approach to the legal process is one of his credentials that place him on top.
I was on the bench as a magistrate. There was a case I was presiding. I won't tell you the case, and the lawyer on the other side. But all of a sudden, Ousainou rose to say, and the lawyer said, no, I'm speaking. Normally, when one is up, the other one should sit down. Then when he rose, he said, no, I'm speaking. He said, no, listen to me first. Then he gave that lawyer 5 cases, names of 5 cases, and the rulings, the ratio decidendi, for the lawyer to use against him. Not many lawyers can do that. Because after all, I think this is the philosophy of Ousainou. It's not about winning cases. It's about presenting the facts and applying the law for justice to be arrived at by the court. And that's the duty of a lawyer to court, is to aid the court, but also aid the parties to arrive at the just decision. So that's lawyer for Ousainou Darboe for you.
What attract people to Ousainou include his humility and selflessness, always willing to put the people first. He has always risen above the confines of himself.
Ousainou mumo nation kilingolati aman kuloro fula soto ala tengo anem mo bele kanyandaje nsavoye Ousainou la hinantea nga Ousainou la je nin comme misal fa tele be sirin jambe sirin damen bi mo be tambila ayamoy woka mem fo wala ma bulole manketa ni yalo iba sutira de saja ni jo falenta comme mbota borola domande akakete akeni jiten sai nga wodula to ala problem o be momenti wala mu nata balaje wota ba soto la lata bita mendi la wala karala Ousainou mu loyalty a darjata la loyato anyanta kodo men soto la ma soto hinante akamal.
I don't think he has any bad, what I call it, bone in him. I think he's one of the most forgiving people. I have seen people turn their backs on him and he takes care of their families after they're dead. Their families come back to him.
nga muso ñini wala kono anata fanan na muso fanan ni kafutema be kita sikir kili we sanji jamma bo akado ko lan muta kuma fam bawo salwati wo salin wati na sita jam isara kale o men sanga fam ya ko san be salwati salin na sita jam misala ba ka salba yo men sanga fam ko san be
maa ngi liggéey fii si moom time boobu doo xalaat ne yaa jëme dafa ñëw toog si dëkk bi paa bi mun na la wax ne man si suma boppa si loo xam bi la magee liggéey na ak paa bi amut jafe-jafe boo xam ne musuma xëy na benn bis mu mere ma mu defaat ma lu bon nit ki danga wax sa diggante ak yàlla loolu amut.
Ousainou has been a pillar of truth all his life, in the courtroom, in public office, or on the political podium. He has always defended the truth and protected the common good.
Ousainou is somebody who is incorruptible. You cannot corrupt Ousainou just because exactly, you want, to gain something which you are not entitled to gain. He will tell you simply, this is just not on. His friends all know him as that.
I'm being a case. If I'm being how to call it? Being a girl. Being a girl going for season. Being a living. Arab Muslim nationality. Ñu ñëw mu am ku leen boole moom. Ñu ñëw. Maa ngi fàttali ku case boobu noonu bi moo prepare documents. Bés boobu noonu suba. Day after 9 ci guddi ñu ci office bi mu prepare yi file client ba ñëw rek nekk daf ko ne ko am na ku ko wax ne ko su ko joxee xaw ma ñaata mu jox ko judge bi den dinañ bàyyi gaal bi mu dem comme like wax nañ ko ne mun naa jox lawyer bi dara mu jox ko judge bi comme bribe judge bi loolu na xari ko ma daara ma too rek dañ xëysee ñu mu ne ma prepare ma notice of discontinuance. Ma ne ko si ban case mu jowoon ma lii. Ma ne ko xanaa lu mu ne ma prepare ma lii nga yóbbu ko nga dem liyal ma ko ba pare naa la explain. Nii ndeke kooku mu ne ma kii di ma waxi ne pour dem bribe judge man. Mama dama ko dama dellu case bi lim ma jot a jox sax dama ko dellu. Génn si case boobu noonu ba 7 weeks.
When he was chairman of the board of the OIC, there were several times some of the board members who are state ministers who will say they want a review of the board allowances that was paid. Some were even pushing to be paid in dollars at the board meeting, and I was, no, I would not do it. It will not happen under my watch as a CEO. And Darboe said, never. And considering that we had forced review of the allowances from sitting to monthly, and some were pushing to be paid a lot of money because of the numbers we're discussing. And he hit the table. He went to town and pretended to walk away. He stood up and said, if that's what I'm out of this meeting. Several times in those meetings, he made it very clear. It's not about how much we as board members collect in allowances in travel. No. This is about the country. How can the people benefit from this project? That was what is important. Not how much we collect as certain allowances. Look, we traveled to Indonesia to meet the president for support for the OIC. He was vice president. We flew in on Sunday morning. That was the day of the World Cup, France and Croatia, I think, if my recollection is right, the last World Cup final. We met the president on the vice president on Monday. They received us, we had the presenters, we had lunch, everything. There was a flight at 11 o'clock at night. And I went to see him and I said, there's a flight tonight. because we were scheduled to leave on Wednesday and get here on Friday. I said to him, look, why are we staying here? He said to me, there's a flight. I said, these people didn't. I said, well, this is what I just discovered from my office, because I was always checking. For me, after the meetings, I look for the nearest flight out. They told me, let's go home. So we flew back that day. And he came back on Wednesday, went to work.
It is because of such attributes that today, Ousainou, the politician, summoned a tidal wave of support from people yearning for change. Under him, UDP has become a mass movement for democracy, justice,
baadiŋolu baadi lamoy laalu minnu be lamoy kaŋ ñiŋ tembeŋ na amunta ñiŋ keta na aadolu le ti doroŋ baga programme samba naŋ jaŋ fo ŋaŋ bandiya bala man telefono ye laali wala ye tinna bii fanaŋ baa kala ŋa lo ko programme ñiŋ documentary ñiŋ jama baa keta angale kaŋol la bari kaŋol sotota je le minnu moolu sotota je minnu diyaamuta mandinka kaŋo la aniŋ suruwa kaŋo la butuŋ kon dalta ka ñaamen don be kolla dantan talal don so kono jang anin diaspora pro ka je duron ko isaje ngi daldi minna ni ka nyanta jede wallante tara jang ngan take bari ngi tatuje wallante okala wala tinna don be telefono e lale hansa enton na so kono jang 6399130 anin 9388430 wala be ka do so kono jang bari diaspora fana 9388430 wala be screen auto ni min lafta kanani whatsapp la woto bajira sedunna ni go wala amunta gina siloti 6399130 commande la follow ta non diaspora assalamu alaikum
hello
allo
salam wa rahmatullah
naam jumala
hello Cheikh Omar yo sefo dudu songolan
yo nyonon ko la sefo eni mbara sefo
enen mbara yo pour nga documentary diara baki
wallahi
karandiro kita je mole fenjama ba le karan je mone mol fam saba ndol dolo mayila ko min mayila min na ta woro mo yaade mole fana
ndeysa
so oncle Ousainou keta mole te mi yalon ko ay bala fa soto ay hino soto kar mo mi yalon ko kabirin annamane yila kawe do na politiko kono yala modol ka ko dole ke ka ke yila ko sama be na politiko kono bana te nyin kele wato politiko na annamane ci kemira politiko ke gambe dingol le ane gambe dingol mako yo bari mo mi yalan ko ika modi ika gele ko karinyol sembe tawol lemu ifele ye tonye man sembo soro imon ko disoro ka loyata mbadu ndenga loye fi sabili lay ayelo ay ganyen because ni ala secretary fa mo imam ya ko ke do be yo bay do ko kabri ya bay do ko la anata je atele ko be kay bar kabri we wala kite ganye kabri wala ko do diala official wala sibal ko be bukatina ay mol bulaje so on ko Ousainou ndama je dala gamen on nyata ngala julojo nin carte fay nala kay inshallah ngaf carte fay ninga carte fay bana fajila
abarka ba ke sefo du sonko pako du sefo to mala bar sefo fon assalamu alaikum allo
yo le programme de diari mbaki
okay mo kan de jumal kelim
ngela Muhammad Sedi
yo Amadou bismillah
ay na tsna al moyen contact back
yes Amadou allo Amadou Amadou tatala nga lota woto diaspora assalamu alaikum
Maaleykum salam Seydou Umar Fofana ñe konton ke ba saballe Helsinki Finland
Mr. Sabali bisimila programme kono.
Follow mbe konton na sangola menketa latelem. Aning mbe mol be konton na social letter de. Atemu kachale time alon ko akono fanu tabake bi fanan nga social letter kuto ngalla moy walla.
Wallahi.
Social letter mu jamano Kenya leti aning hadama dingolu lanya ni Kenya ani mankuto. Andung nimbe wo fola fonsi karo belema bi fanan ketal social letter la fasaro sifa doleti men mansia. Hadamadi yabe nyamen hadamadi nyanta karan nale ko. Momo inyanta kunun donto lale. Niye kunun donto abejo lale bi. Andung soma fankanto be tarala larien. Bing karantale ko mo ni ketak mankutu beto tiye daji ke beto soto. Ala ke jo ala le birin dunia fo lakira. Ngani mem moy ten sataro to politiko mantaraje katum nka mem fo a jamato mennu keta o mu politiko e bantalalti makamate damen. Bawo ngamol la kumo fo me alon koy ko kunun ay munel ke nyim banko kanjang ay muneke moli o da male fota. Hani kabi femman fo ko moli e muneke no ate. Woto moye kendea moye kunun juludum fosi soma bi jo soto isi soma fankanta ta soto turo. Mem fota jang alaman bekela womo sifaluti mankuto e tunto me alonko nsikara yalon balu kuja majele beje nka balu le nka kuja wolje wol fana munye lesino leti ko kuja o katete nandu nakata akajoten kunyima fana ta jele ala kan karandi jimbele ko ninga songo fembe hada madiyato kubeta karanta bije. Alingan kalam mo kendolula alingan kalam ku kendolula alinga pare Afrika ngabanko faling mankutoluto ekaje sewmar ku kilimbije eka Afrika di alamang Afrika bali wallahi ntela dunia tamo kono ala Afrika so menna aman dunia dula foala wulo kono nemo beje banko koto nemo beje sango santo nemo beje ni mantara molbe ya bari africanol mankuto wole nyim sima ibe men kono alinga falling ntolle sa falling no alinga song ale to men nga ala tentu ala ngaja ya nga mankuto le fari tunyaro alinga bonna society kono alinga tilwo kenya alinga nyodema ngalo nyoe mbekana lale man sali men kan kala vidron ko da may kana wonta kumote bari sew mar janninga kumo ko to batude musiye patiyele lo ko ma jande fat sen sabal malum fo patiyet kibaro mo ele ba
ko ngamo ele lam ko na dafa nan kata sawonto patiyel
patiyeto mu biji pati wala ma toti o akoto menti wala baro e ji
patiye ka ke leta sabalti ko balate tawo ko biji da
wo ka jam fare nyin dole sutiyata biji baro ji ndo handi ya fo mandika kawala atembe tale bi fanga eji wala mukumot
abaraka
yo alibere tarapati yo andu nete mun ko kono ala bok tom wolti de nete mun ko
balbe mun la kol aba faabe wonde kolal takande
mobe tamu mbe tamu wolti nete mun ko momo dun taje to ajolo nete mun ko kono bi jilem
okay abaraka sabay abaraka bake wala geba sabal del sin allo do fa ngaw jibe assalamu alaykum wa alaykum assalam
Segumaru nge kontom bake
ngejo alay kaws
alma alay kayro kaliye
inshallah alma talala nimbetema
amin Segumaru bi fo sewo mbe ala tentula bake be sallallahu alaihi wasallam be badungol be kontona UDP la kanantol be dawdam be kontona bawo kajal min keda wonyanta kanyanna hakilu mal yele mbonanga ko janimbe tambila keba sabali mba kontona baki samati mba nala muso fa sen sabali
ko rifa dam te farsen na patito
Five party lofo.
Yare mamo iko ako BG party.
BG party.
Ah.
Dugara fa na la UDP kan.
Okay, bele mo kan. Okay, so.
Yo mbe kondo na bake.
Ngejo.
Cheba nyum fana Hussein Darboe mba konton na. Mafla Gambian kole ko. Nyin kanya da hakili ma ya lale.
Wala mtoyas.
Mfana nga kumo dota kumol kono. Ko wadu anala modo dara fo jara soma lota itan serodo. Cheba do na chenungo do na ta anyada be kankan din aburabu wararing.
Desha.
Aya kumandi sinya saba kai Ousainou ite aya kumandi sinya saba. Akai kanan na jiko tinya. Kanan na jiko tinya fo sinya saba. Oto jiko ay wala muta abaluta wala kam fombe biminto. Oto mba fola moliye fana mini alon ko ka opposition ya manke ngaibet. Bawo man so ko la tilkal ayyan nuda widi ha bainan nas. Akonga tilo falim molu temale. Tilo dobe boyla dobe malala. Anu korosiro ko kele ko. Ni ala kidi dala ala batade kala kensangot.
Inshallah.
Kamomi al ko kabiri abe sanjita alqur'ano karanga ya bang. Odo way fen sude ala la ko tolde.
Wala to nyaata. Baraka.
Ando alqur'ano dun ko ko nyo sa bangolam.
Wallahi.
Odo insa ko mole ko yajibe min mu mole di mi alon ko ay ngan yesodo aya fen ko fanan sodo aya ngan yesodo amuta ko de aya ala nyaslan sodo odo nga dol fanga sila nyanda kala nye korosiro de kake hakil maati yinka man saje ko nga tambindi mamol beten dunge be jay ala baraka fante ta balimba fra na la UDP patio kan abaraka
do fel. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum somebody to do ni
Inimbar Sekumar.
Inimbar Jumalo.
Fabra ma Fadera.
Yo Fadera Demba Jam bismillah Fadera.
Mbal kondo mbal tentla mbal jayla.
Nyejo.
Ousainou Darboe alfala bati. Ano aya ke banko bele. Ndemen ko jeteng. Wallahi baba dimbe tonya baba nindare. Monya janna kan ata andu loya ba te bulo ko akanya bi molla fewn kanne ko loya ko loye aka angol abaka wonna ko do jo. Ndara baba ninda fe ay samba Ousainou Darboe ya. Akonye kombe kite njibe lale. Kite non kabila nata. Ayen jibe ay kendon jibe ay kumande karla akonye ko nyimum bitam malet. Akonye ko nta kite kirona tema. Bata simbe kite di mbe modi lan mbe ko kite la abe senyala. Ay baba dinni jo baba kumande akay ko nyinna kite ta. Baba dinni kay ko to ko mol sole bari nta sola de. Aka benjo dal bari ko do men be abe ko do men no man nay ko siatal. Ousainou Darboe ko ne yenter na office ko no. Aku baba dinde ba kala gelle baba dinde ya fay. Ousainou Darboe la ranke so yele ay ko do dinna ko ko tete ya jo.
Allahu akbar. Allahu akbar.
Woto Ousainou Darboe aka ama kan tanda ma ka banko bele.
Wala mtonyat.
Ay ko mo le mo ngal ten do ngal de.
Baraka Fadera baraka.
Baraka.
Nyana te Giorgio tentu sole. Ngejeyi ngetentu. Do fele ngota. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Yes, mbadi to do ani ben click on me.
Ntara mu krabla kamara mbe kol ke kan UK.
Okay.
Angleterre.
Yo krabla bismillah.
Yo mbal konton na bake Mengbe Kering molu anen mbe bojam konton na bake. Anal entire radio station al bedo ko men na manyon soto.
Alhamdulillah.
Nga nyenen ni de adum fana Ousainou Darboe nyin disable ko men ko kanyin kai. Dunia ya kalamuta ka foko jumalam Ousainou Darboe ti. Gambia dingul ya lonka foko jumala Ousainou Darboe ti. Anata atata munela true. Akuyata diata Ousainou Darboe men deserve wala mu nyinti ko nga state house ka nga diala. because mbenga lonne ka fugo brabe atodu foreign minister ala ay munesi bankoma ana mun foundational lelandi demage tentire barembe bankola development nyim follow kande ka jube mune nyanta Gambia anin Gambia mune ni bi Gambia men ni wala Ousainou Darboe pour nyin kamala ko ngam fanno nga joya julo kundum kangola nganna banko doku nga nyoblo muta tribalism ye bang nyim politique kalantangol ye bang banko dogo ke alingata ngala manifesto jube ala fo Gambia dingole mennu karanda ye Ousainou na manifesto jube kol men ba kono wolel mu kolti men yalon ko Gambia be solli ngala bi wota bata men ga Gambia it is high time to pay it back alenga carte ke so siga nga diala nga ala seyje mba jelale ko within the 5 years Gambia be mun achieve nola because ay molle soto men yalon ko minum molle men yalon ko talenta bakala adiyo do ko nola di yalon ne kamu nek imantara je pour la jiboye bidu wala mo nga Gambia be konton alnal badi malam North Bank Farmers Association wala ko net kialamu bidu North Bank ko lemba Gambia ko lemba alna kafuma nga balu fenna nga men doku ani nga fendo ku be balu la men
wala to yata baraka bake
ene mbara sudo kayro sia
inshallah amin umunna not
baraka
umunna not bank ko le nga do ta so kon assalamu alaikum allo mbadi to do ani ben kil kammi
antum la Darboe de me ko la buru fudla
yo bismillah
anko alla programme ay important ba kele
te mo kende
yeah anko ante ba kele through these things I learned a lot about Ousainou Darboe if I understand my program was politics but kabinga la moy la Ousainou Darboe le community la pas at intercratic council already because by then men mira kan umpa vote la jumale anta vote la jumale because as a Gambia ni ngati ke mira wisely be bata men kono be bono lo kono nyamen yeah so wala sabu afa ko ndelo vote kay mom naka de so ay sotole
baraka nga do fonon tambe fulal tala diaspora nga fulata sokono nga dan je wato tala assalamu alaikum allo
hello assalamu alaikum
wa alaikum assalam badi to do ani ben kil kammi
ndalam Basir Jaaju la be kilo ke kan Spain
yo Basir bismillah programme ko
Cheikh Umaru bi kumbo ende faale
ndesal
wallahi
si maamu kube jawal
alma Ousainou mila mo nyaato ana dimba yala ani Gambia mol be kila mala hormodo Ousainou badada de Ousainou Darboe badada ba ke Gambia nyanda pour ka nyaala julojo Ousainou ani yola Gambia le ay Gambia le je so alfa Gambia le mako la so nyaatra nyakado di Ousainou la Gambia no mako la wallahi Gambia we diala tuba bankol ni be mbulo duna nyobulo ñun tay ni so be mbulo duna nyobulo Gambia no li be mako le be bala fala mole because Ousainou bala fa mo dal bala fa Gambia no yere ando nyaalon ka be winnal ni sang do wina wallahi billahi because mu nekara Ousainou barata le moy ñun story jibe ko ndekku mbota bi mal be ala be sedi yar wallahi billahi din su budin dingli ana din kamban dingli no yena solo sambe faram na story moy no se war bi ndekku mboy de falde ala be sedi yar wallahi billahi moy falde bari min Allah ya rabbi wala Ousainou Darboe ana demba ani kambe din kenoli ko ala simbe tanka embe sura du ko kara ko ba ko kara ko Allah salli ala Muhammad bar Ousainou de alhamdulillah rabbil alamin mo kendolo ma mo mi ala ko tanabe sanyi tan soro ay mari alquran karam sinya saba ya bang no mo kende ba ni mo alfa kendoti alma mi la nyaaro ndeko wala duwa wato alfa kendo felenti ni kanta mo ma rek fota na Gambia fota le na Gambia fota so anya try nani kende nya samba mo nya to ay mol jama ay mol la Gambia ay pilalo mo le pilal na pila solo ibajira sina ala fadi la ya pare la ndia lo ka tanta la 5 years la utelo am kila bo ke la badi la mun ala fadi la mun
because baraka mbadi ngadota sokono assalamu alaikum
wa alaikum salam shawma
nam jumala
nkela marama so dem babin kama misira
ala bismillah programme kono
yo min cew min kali am ta kumbota man si kumbola fana ndo da mala jam
ali sabar
use kala history mo e merlo de man di fala olto bar ko ala history mo lu malong hani menu e bango to yala history lonne Usain Darboe la bala fa hada ma dingoli enta arama ta dem bayo lon melna Usain bi wuli ta bi ka banku ta mo la tili tan alen na la be paneto ni la ma so ay be ko mandi banjul biro to mo banjul biro la mal biro ta ko ndita na banku ta mo la min nen la ke sibula no ma mo fa sibula no ma ka ko man paneto dinna para tin na silo bayina mo suti andi fe mo sita mo be bula ta no ma do da ta mo be dan ta pamenal plena cross tabala ya mitin follow yeso police wol finti tankay ko nga janja ka ta la bala silo futandira itata bara so te fast twin kamala kana tambi ajita fast be fast min gro judu mi ta fo sabira ko dunya be ka wal finti ta walla ka the feeling atela o banta o tere ko to bitiki dala pano cheta ayeti nyanta ge ayelaji para mi soro la do moro men kana akol la bo ya te mul siata bala fata pour ngeso do moro ko ngeso do moro la ko signor aya fa dindi won memo men ko ya fa nyen ko anta wata afango wuli tan anata interesting kin talalu la ta ko ni arama tan ko nam ako ni signor so nda ali ni signor so do moro la ako ni do moro men kana e bala fa am fesi nka e tele afo nsake nka bari ta ma ko mo ya fonta sonna nka bari nsake nkoroka Usain Darboe bala fa so to hanaba di wolle Usain Darboe sinkiri jamaale mara kullo kono Usain Darboe mo jamaale jara kuura wala mo jamaale karandi karambo to jita de la mo nafaka ko sa tentu na jayi no duwa fa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asini Gambia banko diala aya mara Gambia e kayro soto Gambia de ngole kayro soto wala mo mo alma alen be ni fotandi uma alma gagni la ni katte fa men kana lu special subhanahu formo na barako yo ala baraka ba ala baraka
Gambia assalamu alaikum
alaikum
mbadi tan na commande la ba so ko jam
yo ndere murtana Amadou Seydi
okay Amadou
yo ke
ha allo
hello
yo jumalam
assalamu alaikum
wa alaikum salam mbadi to la ni ban kilkam mi
sona fati baba ndiaye
yo sona tele mo commande la mot Amad la no yewo jolon
bal be kon tanna
nyejo
kelke ko kontano
okay
alama ko dinke be wala Usain Darboe la ala na ala ngani o horo moto
amin allah ya rabbi amin
alama di jemba tiri dani ya ko wi Darboe
ndesan amin
kelke ko kontano do inshallah wi kontanto bake
itonya
mbedu ala mo be mbedu ala telefone ya moy
baraka
Mashallah baraka bake
man wol mun last call to shukran ta dash for na last call ta assalamu alaikum allo mbadi to dani ben kilkam mi tele mun na commande la ba on tijere
allo c'est Omar
nam jumalam
Amadou Lom
Amadi ben kilkam mi
de commande kan jaman
yo Amadou bismillah
ambe kontona mba kabo pato kana ite si Omar to kata Aliou kata Fadera tombal be kontona
mbenge jo
alla do ko nyata alma ala yal sawo kaliye
amin allah ya rabbi
alma radio alma kala tele bonti
amin allah ya rabbi
mam fanamba kumandiro ke kan documentary min ba ke kan bi se Umar ngan kali keme kali talul ngan kali keme kali talul Gambia nim fota nyinna nta moso to la ko te min bakela ko nyin ha ndela fana wo fo e bi nim fota nyin na nyin carte fa yo mbadinka wo dinka kon nyin na nyanta bondi la je bar nim fota la ntol ba to la dinko la kono fajanne ila yomi din nte min ka diami etenting yalo mobe ka foko ye bonda ye bon nte min ka diami etenting nte ko to manene bulata problem o do kono je ani police officer min bulata problem o kon police o ya sembota aya jaya kan bari ntata kitiyo la lawyer Darboe ketan tola lawyer ti bari wo court house anata je signa kini na bira na do signa kini la wo police o mamuru wo court house ko te wo kitiyo bandati an no hantaran summa diyala science yau marni na ta jibe yin momin be ka lawyer Darboe kon ika kon mun dalile la alma jamfala la bibi nin yin yela bi wo momin be ka kon wala jina lo ala sanga dula to ka kuma fo ka kai jaloti biya ba niyola iba nenne ba kaja faja le ba faja sani nata num mansake ka tombon komin ala barol jamale baro ke katammin na jamale doku ke jamale karanta jama akuraninte angale karante ahinante yante abbala jamale batambila nyina sai nata num mansake yan ka tombon nin silol la jamale nyanta kala gambel mansake min nyanta tambila nyina sai dol nata wolba grade 6 wol jita grade 6 dol danda grade 10 dol danda malon gel sai nyin ke ba nyin la moy se umar nin yelo ka bori bala jato kono o kumbola lunte me jalede nyanta kumbola Gambia nyanta jola la nyinya la ngam fonyo bulala nyin ke ba la man ku ken nan ka bulala free ali ngam fonyo ka bulanyi nan nyin tambin nin nyato nyin sanji dulo hajibe bam beba nimisara ngapo muna na manyin tambin din nyato
okay abaraka bake mbadi imo kende
abaraka bake se umar ngal konto ngal tentu ngal jay ala baraka ala baro
kono a telephone last call ke bari gp fo gp lam fo g assalamu alaikum
Maaleykum salam Seeku Umar
ila pati be mol soto kande do mandinde bari
bi jile mbar pati anyim abe UDP le konani UDP be mu kilingole
sonko ko la fa UDP kande
ani nyim fango be wole kono ni amoy be la fala fengo kan aba kono le
okay parcel
abe UDP le kono kola mu yelo le ti andum Ousainou Darboe la netalo le babala andi ba jolonna Ousainou na boxo le fanan kon
okay
pati nyum mu wole ti ba jolonna Ousainou na boxo le kono biji baro e jibibi fango
okay
Eku mar mandin kol ko kende a fole diyata bar kende ya mandiya bar Ousainou kende ya tan a kende ya tala Seeku Umar nyimmobe ta fal kunu tentula oto Gambia dingolu nin kombe kendo le nyini kan nga kendo sotole muna Gambia dingol alinga lon ko Gambiante moya tin tolle tamu Gambiate Senegal tinaka Gambia di dan tolye Guinea tinaka Gambia di danye Mali tinaka Gambia di danye tol Gambia dingol lebe lola kanna Gambia di da woto bi nin kombe mo kende nyinolla mo kendo fo jannede moliya mo kendo fo janna andu Gambia dingol ngalon fananko mol ka nyimi fo ko muna sanjilulu man sakunda falingo wole duniya bankol ke bankot nyin sirango mi yaajete ngamanke mo kilintati de Gambia dingo bele tamuwat bar mbete sino la je fonga moji be ngadi wala ngadi min nan kani sartole dila biri ba nyini lambuli bu ka fanya ka ladinna alale nke je ngata asije ka fanya lo ka ladinna ninnata ngalla kole ya bunda lonne alla banko silo bebe kinyarinne accident wol be kala motol be boyla fenta fo silo lat kati baliya mballa namo murundi la kan ngalla silo be do kwali ifa fanya la kala alla kango karafanna alla sangi lulu kango alla jati kende ya bunda min bebe tinyarinal kurantal buka jari dula soto mballa namo murundi la kan nga jati kende ya bunda to pato momo ni kurante jaral kura wo kura naman ke sata kura ngoti yabe jare wulu banko kay temira la kata banku do ikanan tol musol dalale ko nyaka la sanjil wulu kamol karafanna ngamara la tanko la na la dimba la tanko ngakaram bunda yir wanda la fondin keliye nga sene bunda li topato nga sene lali bambu ngambalul tarola birin sam fanyo sang nyin sifa lay ka wala fonye andum fanan kaaje ko be la firi wala banko kan oji ko la katinan kanna kawo karafel oto ni make sarato mu sanjil wullet
okay
sanjil wulo kono ni tama nyin kenye nyante te jindila la ngadi modo la mo fayante nyin dulati
baraka parcel baraka wato biyo
oto Gambia musolu nga kendo jele de alala karte ke sodi Ousainou Darboe la kuma laali ko ni Ousainou yendang mbe tula dinko kon la fajanni mbe kala nyami ala kanati nga yendang ala ma nyina nga wi
amin baraka ba
abara
baraka parcel butum badi wulu ngal hakko dane katu line flow bebe kandirine hanin tula yam fo jannen 12 ngalo telefono o to lola wala nga mol hakko dan to bawo ni den talale bare fon sal hakko dan katu du ko nyum fana mu watolte alfana yam funye nga karandem bula alfana karandem bula nga kaw nyama wala nim fula janga mol cey nga mol tentu mi yalan ko le programme commence wala mi sabo yante butu nte kunde wonte nga kumfa bare ya commence bula ngala dani minna wala fon sa kumfa kara kono ala fula ina duwal jabi mfata kumfa dulado wala mbate man sa ba man sa kalan ko dana fon se murun na jang ko rek na social letter bi nga social letter dole sambalang bi ke ba samal ko nyim fana social letter de bawo ay kunun fula ay kunun ko fo ay bifo mbe yilaren samala wala ala mala ya sonande oto mbe mol jayla me mol ten tamba fula ala barka ba ke fo wati to
Remit Continental, fastest money transfer in minutes.
Kubuga yoni highly smart fat. Use Remit Continental. Never bought the taxi yo. I got 1,000 facts as all. Yoni highlights from UK down to Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana. Every coast, Mali, wherever, and every part of the African continent. Remit Continental, cheap, fast and confidential, and reliable, fastest money transfer. No fake it to Musasona, I reach Remit Continental. Cheap, fast and confidential, and reliable, fastest money transfer. Download all app if access all.
Remit Continental, fastest, reliable, and secure money transfer.
Red Star Family Company tonya company lu siatarde ba Red Star Family Company itulumu nyontangon lete me yalonko bata kilin nem li jama be men kono
ye tento sotale na sifa o sifa pro alla picnicolo conference o anen futu sito ye sirewol fana sotole pour alla picnicolo alla party and alla conference o ye table jangol fana sotale yenne nyin table jangol mi yalonko ikola use pour conference o ye selen dangol fana sotole pour kapintalu anin masangolo biring sutuma fo ajangama ye generator fana sotali ye jele anin adjustable lampol mu yalonko nin conference be kering e kan lampol mun kiye pour dula bese fanu
kabirin alla kunkol tolomba alla gadinol to alla kankangol to nsalla nyamolu kuntungi tembendi yesenia fitaro kabirin alla suwol kono bang fo alla official to ning alla motolu panete be silokan nkanale ngi nyafu ngi chika ke bondali silokan te sambale Gambia dawoda ete laftanga sambadami
mpelale loptan silabakan gunjur sate kono
wala lingi kachanyo ya
991 1353 237 1113 318 8131 993 3867 448 6841
Ali email
redstarfamily@gmail.com.
nika kolea ko soto pour kana radio muta ita be sirin dame nsa foy ko ila kolea ko bantale dukare home digital fm la radio app download android phone to wala device ol min kamta ko laptop aning computer kabona google play store aning apple store ye fanse woni na programol la kabal fansu radio to home digital fm wala su fm ila programol kanedang kabona home digital fm la app to hanibe dulal to mialon ko mobile network ko buka sembo soto je bake pour que mona fanyin apple la abuka megabyte jamata ka boyla data to home digital fm jamala kango
badin talibu la dinkira lombang walla masakunda la dinkira lombang ja halu bandal fereng ani nyini diro faram bandal fereng ko no gulale nare ka fo me yalon ko al hikma translation center al hikma translation center ka muleke anila do go mu muneji wonon ko ikalla kay to ka boldi ko kabo arabola kata angalela walla kabo angalela kata arabola anum kaltuma be me yalon ko akafo dunia kono bake kan me yalon ko allonta dunia kono anda ka fo le faran akasafele anin kan ya bele sodoje me yalon ko ka fo damen ko al hikma translation center ning ibaloru min dolo wolo mahadil islam me yalon ko iba pirka maja anum falang melna jamalo ngala siran jodi ka fo me ko basidia drame me yalon ko ayalondo soto ning pol kono me siala sanyi monde andon ay do ko kedula jamma baleto me yalon ko ibalondi dunia kono farang ko mbading nakango moy ani me yalon ko ala do ko ba kan ayalon bake wala manke kilinti de ning yalon ko andun e manda wodam ma falalla andun te me yalon ko ikasafero ke abi ko dum banden ko kamen foy ko robu ka fon kullino wasabu kamala liye safero ke isula da mole me yalon ko asa jibe noje anaye boydulal ay be bondino je andum franco falankele liye safero ke arabu kan la wala angale kan la pour yadi mola ay jibe pour ka boydulal yin pour ke bondije andum ni na re dularo za keno na dada ay bamban catch me yalon ko mota sotaro taraje madin ngaburu dame ka fo dame ko al hikma translation set yimmo lila fe contact la me yalon ko e ka fo men ko sanusi jete ne taraje ba taraje ka fo 6843828 wala ibrahim drame e ka fo men ala number 7914220 ala barakama
Khalifa General Duwa Jabi Moro Alhaji Mamadou Lamin Jabi anala nomalanko minkata Alhaji Madiba Jabiti alkalo nyakasi baji anim pese alfalu mume be wala ko ibe jama misilmol be kere komandela ila sawasan ziyareto e kambinke bese sate kono e ko nyin ziyare ka kemina ko kama wala mo Alhaji Kanjura Jabiti andunga sita labe kala nyinno be bakaro atili mwala ko ibe bunya futande la banko president wala Adama Barrow anala kabineto bume be Khalifa General meyalon ko abe kanjalo Alhaji Salbina Jabi Khalifa General meyalon ko abe jara sutukun Alhaji Lansana Jabi Khalifa General Mengbe Kering Masembe Alhaji Karamba Jabi Khalifa General meyalon ko abe nyandanki Alhaji Sankumba Jabi Khalifa General Alhaji Sidia Jabi Mengbe Tarsilima anen sirifol mume be ahla beritu rasul min yalon ko be Gambia anen Senegal president me yalon ko be Supreme Islamic Council anen president me yalon ko abe Rawdatul Majalis dumbadi ngolo min yalon ko ibe nyiziare kala wolo Duwa Jabi Moroti anen ala bese alfalu walla ko be jama mod be ko man le dañen siare bato asitale yen tubab karo November atili moolo walla be ngaben
Mansarun kilinye birika mazuma kunda amudu wajang waye sankarango Mansarun kilinye birika mazuma kunda amudu wajang waye sankarango ala kilinge birika masumakunda bamodi bojang waye sangarango bojang sangaranga ini urara ilodula le bamanda wala tinambe jamuna ba modu yebangu dinkende ada fale pa modu ida be hero lukono Gambia melie demokrasi murundi nanga Gambia kono ba modu bojang sangaranga ilo de la bango yela bango bondi mola hero media la hero mola hero media la hero baringa nyine lo alisi toka